Hello everybody and welcome to round 4 of the 2022 GP4 World ChampCar Offline Championship. We are here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Interlagos, Sao Paulo, Brazil for round 4 of the championship. The first ever time that World ChampCar will be racing here at Interlagos and also here in Brazil as well. I am JW97 and I'm joined today by the host himself, Yuri Marta.
Tervepä terve.
Indeed, we only just got on time really because it took a little bit of a while to sort out the order for the qualifying, but we're about to get underway. No rain expected throughout this qualifying session, so it's just going to be bone dry throughout, and we're about to get underway very soon. The first car will be Alex-Eric Lucien in the Peugeot, who'll be the first to go out onto the track, as you can see on the left hand side of your screen. Of course, the timer, obviously not necessary because we're on a one-shot qualifying. So, anyway, obviously we need to rewind back 3 weeks ago to the last race at Road America, and it was 3 out of 3 race wins for Team Penske, with Julius Anderson, despite the fact that he started all the way down in 12th place on the grid, taking the victory after what was quite a close fight with the one stopping Francesco La Rosa, who had a fantastic outing at Road America by claiming second place. Bush Daniel was having a good race as well. I do believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, a double podium for Ferrari last time out at Road America, so they got a good haul of points last time out at that race. But of course, this is now the first race outside of USA and a new one for World Champ Car, because we didn't race here last season. It is of course Interlagos, and well, we know this track is a bit of an overtake fest. We saw it a little bit in Formula E earlier on in the season, and of course the top class have had, and the F2 of course have had overtake fests around here as well. So I would expect it to possibly be the same for World Champ Car as well, given that well, they are Formula cars at the end of the day, these Indy cars are, so I expect it also to be quite a lot of overtaking around here at Interlagos. Of course, a very short track around here at this circuit, so some quick lap times you should expect around here. Obviously a long lap distance, of course, because of the fact of how short the track is. But Lucien is the first one out on track, and if I'm not mistaken, he was involved, of course, in that pile-up that happened last time out at Road America, where it basically was a chain reaction. I think it was Lucien that started it off with his mechanical failure, and then it basically led to well, a bit of a chain reaction that happened a little bit later on. So obviously the guys involved in that crash will want to move on from that as quick as possible, as Lucien is about to start his lap very, very soon now then, as he makes his way up the hill through into the final turn, as he's now about to start his flying lap here at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache. The Frenchman starting his lap very soon, which is going to start now, and the next car on track will be Marat Patacek in the McLaren. Of course, he was also involved in that chain reaction crash that happened at Road America 3 weeks ago, and a little bit of a clumsy action, and it must be said, for Marat Patacek when he was involved in that, because he could have easily avoided it, but yeah, just a little bit clumsy from his end really. But yeah, he will definitely want to move on that. Lucien approaching the first sector, 19.846 in the first sector, and of course, given that the top class are raced here before, it should give us a bit of a comparison really as to what the speeds are like compared to World Champ Car and top class. I should expect these cars to be slower, of course, than the top class. I don't expect it to be faster, of course, but maybe it'll be very interesting to see what it's like anyway, especially compared also with the likes of F2 and also Formula E as well, so it'll be quite interesting. Lucien around the left-hander now then, as he now makes his way out of the turn before making his way towards the hairpin now then. Of course, the hairpin, quite famous in real life for what Hamilton and Albon did coming out of that turn, as Lucien surprisingly not taking that corner as quick as I would have thought he would have done, as he now makes his way towards the end of sector 2, 1 minute 3.265 in the middle sector, as he now makes his way up the hill now then, as he will now make his way towards the pit straight, and let's see what sort of lap time he's able to produce. A lot slower, in fact, than what the Formula 1 cars can produce around here, but let's see what he does anyway. Lucien, across the line he goes, and it's a 1 minute 21.745, so that is the lap time that Lucien can produce. Clearly these cars struggle a little bit when it comes to turning, but it seems that on the straights, no such problems whatsoever, as Patacek is the next car out on the racetrack now then. And well, yeah, it's going to be, as you mentioned, a little bit interesting to see what the comparison is with the top class around here.
Yeah, what I will say is that the World Champ Car cars are slightly down on power compared to the F1 cars. Of course, this season's F1 cars, as we have seen, reach ridiculous speeds. But in terms of, well, as Piaget just puts 1.8 to Lucian's Sector 1, so I think there must have been something off with that.
Yeah, I was a little bit
Wait,
curious as to what.
actually, I think actually we have to restart the qualify. I have the wrong file on.
Oh dear. Yeah, I was wondering why Lucien looked a bit slow going around the corners there. So, yeah, just hold off, guys, and we'll try again. We'll have the same weather, of course, for qualifying, so it's a little bit accurate. So, yeah, a little bit of an issue there. I was wondering why, I know if Lucien was looking a little bit slow going around the corners there. It looked a little bit clunky, it's fair to say. But, yeah, let's just hold off for a moment, guys, and we'll get that quickly sorted as quick as possible. And so it shouldn't take too long, this little fix. So, apologies from that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, this is what happens when you live with the same head all day long.
yeah, it was a little bit of a rush. I think I did mention as well, right at the beginning of the show, that it was a little bit of a rush to get
Y-
the order in for qualifying.
Yeah,
So,
I
I could
had the file
understand.
that we used to put the manual grid, which means that if we saw one of those cars that qualified really low down last week, we would have seen some funny things happen on track.
Yes, indeed. So, he'll quickly get that change and we'll get the actual qualifying session back underway. So, let's ignore the lap time that Lucien did. He gets a second chance to do it all over again. So, yeah, that's that really. And,
So we are
so
probably getting a bit closer to the F1 lap times.
yeah, a little bit closer, but I don't expect them to be quicker than the
Yeah,
F1 cars. If
yeah,
I'm being totally
absolutely
honest,
not.
because if anybody knows, a World Champ car is actually slightly heavier around the corner than an F1 car. They might not look it, but in the corners they're a little bit slower compared to an F1 car. So, yeah, the F1 car, of course, having a lot more downforce than what an Indy car or even a World Champ car can produce. So you expect them to be a little bit slow around the corners, but definitely not as slow as what we saw with Lucien earlier on. But that's kind of that, really. But anyway, we've got it all sorted out now, and let's try again, shall we? So Lucien will get a second bite of the cherry here, and he should set a much better lap time than what he saw a little bit earlier. So apologies for that. But yeah, these things happen. So anyway, as mentioned, Lucien will get another bite at the cherry here, as we're about to get underway with take 2 of this one-shot qualifying session. As we wait for him to go out onto the racetrack, of course. Obviously, he doesn't need to rush too much, of course. Obviously, being one-shot qualifying, he is obviously first to go out, so he basically dictates when everybody else has to go out on track. So, yeah, the mechanic's getting ready to send Lucien out on track, and we will begin the proper qualifying session with the correct performance files for qualifying. So that's that. As hello, Rosetta Martinez has just joined us in the stream chat, as Lucien is now making his way out onto the racetrack now then. Making his way out of the pit lane now then, before making his way around the right and left-hander. And we should see, when he goes around a corner, he should be a lot better than what he was previously, where he looked quite slow going around the corners. So let's see this time as Lucien comes down the back straight, as now making his way into turn 4, and straight away I think it's already looking a lot better than what it was previously. So we've now got the actual speed with Lucien's car here as he makes his way through the double right-hander now. Then up the hill he goes before making his way into the hairpin, and we should get a proper representation this time of what sort of lap times these cars produce compared to the top class, really, as the Frenchman now then making his way towards the hairpin, taking it a lot better than what we saw previously when we had the wrong performance file there, and now flat out through the left-hander, as he now makes his way towards Young Cow now then, as he flicks it in through the left-hander. Up the hill he goes before making his way around the final couple of corners, and Lucien will start his lap very, very soon now then, coming down the straight, and Lucien starts his flying lap here at Interlagos. Next car on track, as mentioned earlier on, will be Marat Patacek in the McLaren. Lucien through into the first corner. Now, of course, to give a comparison of what the performance that Lucien had, of course, Lucien, when we had that previous performance on, he did a 19.1 in the first sector. This should be a lot better this time by Lucien up towards the first sector, 18.1. So yeah, second clear of that incorrect performance he had a little bit earlier on. So Lucien now then around turn number 5 he goes as he makes his way up the hill towards the double right-hander. It might not look like a double right-hander, but I do think it is classed as 2 separate corners around here, as now coming around the hairpin now then, and you can basically lift off down through into this left-hander really, and be able to carry the speed through. In towards the hairpin we go now then. He will now make his way down towards the left-hander. So now making his way towards Young Cow now then, a 54.590 in the middle sector. So let's see what lap time he does this time by. It shouldn't be anywhere near that 1 minute 21 he did previously. Lucian now then through the final couple of the corners. He will go now then as Alex Eric Lucian is about to cross the line. And what is the lap time going to be? It is going to be a 1 minute 12.232. So looking at what the top class did, I think that's 4 seconds slower than what we had pole position-wise for the last couple of seasons in the top class.
Much better than 5 minutes ago.
Yes, definitely. 9 seconds quicker than the incorrect performance there. So at least now Patacek has got something to aim for this time, rather than just breezing it really in the McLaren. As now the Czech driver now then is about to start his lap, of course, wanting to forget about the crash that he was involved in last time out at Road America. A bit of a clumsy crash, really, for the rookie, who so far had a pretty good rookie season so far with the BMW powered McLaren, I should say. Luke Mason will be next up on track. After Marat Patacek, of course, as let's see what Patacek's first sector is like compared to Lucian, and he's up still like he was previously, although this time not 1.8 seconds like previously. It's actually just a tenth up in the first sector compared to Lucian. So let's see if the Czech driver can keep this up as he makes his way through the double right-hander now. Then he will go before making his way down towards the hairpin through the right and then into the left-hander, which you can easily lift off through. Down the hill he goes, and now coming out of the turn before making his way into the hairpin, as now Patacek coming around that hairpin now. Then he goes and now making his way towards the flatter left-hander. Is he still going to set a purple middle sector compared to Lucian? Let's see. Pushing the middle sector. Yep, 2 temps up. So as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, there's only really one corner he can make a mistake, which is just past, which is Young Cow. So no issues there. He should really go to the top of the timing sheets, but we shall see. Could he potentially break into the 1 minute 11s though? Let's see. Patacek across the line. He will go now then, and he does break into the 1 minute 11s. 4 temps quicker, a 1 minute 11.827. So, yeah, even without that incorrect performance here, it seems Lucian a little bit off there compared to Patacek.
Yeah, the McLarens have had a few good flashes of showing in qualifying, so I think Piatet has made a decent time there.
Yeah, indeed. Next up is the Viper of Luke Mason, and it's interesting to point this out, of course, because last time out of Road America, the Vipers and also the Manners showed some pretty good one lap pace really around Road America. They were able to get pretty much towards the middle of the grid really, so whether they can keep that up here at Interlagos, we shall wait and see. But clearly at Road America, the Mercedes engine in the back of those two cars definitely had some grunt compared to what the Meyershanks were able to produce, and that's despite the fact they've got a Honda engine in the back, the same one as what Penske have. As now Mason makes his way out of turn 3 now then, as Simon Mutka is the next car onto the track. Of course, both Peugeots being involved in that pile-up. Mason 1/10 down in the first sector compared to Patacek, and I think he's slightly down on Lucian as well, from memory as well, but not by much, only by a few hundredths there off of Lucian in that first sector. As now Mason coming around the double right-hander now then before he makes his way into the hairpin, as the Viper driver just goes around the right and then into the left-hander. He will go, as now heading his way towards that hairpin now, then he will soon be approaching, so around the right-hander we will go, as let's see what Mason's middle sector is going to look like compared to Marat Patacek now then, his fellow rookie, and well, 1.3 seconds off. So yeah, it seems that so far, unless we're going to see a similar performance from the Meyershanks a little bit later on, it seems it's back to reality for the Vipers and Manners when it comes to 1 lap per pace. Clearly Road America was suiting their cars, I should say, a little bit better than other circuits. But anyway, Mason across the line, and he goes into third as expected, 1.5 seconds off of Marat Patacek. So unlike what we saw in Road America, yeah, it's basically back to reality for Viper and maybe even Manor as well. We're yet to see them, of course.
Yeah, that's only the first one, I'd say. Wait a bit. But yeah, Mason looked a bit off all of the lap.
Indeed, as now we look at Simon Mutka, who's next up on track in the Peugeot, just making his way for the flat-out left-hander goes the Polish driver, now making his way into Young Cow as he's just going to start his lap now then. He makes his way up the hill now then as the Polish driver now coming around that left-hander before making his way down the pit straight, and Mutka is about to start his flying lap here at Interlagos. The next car on track will be Dorian Milewski, his fellow compatriot, I should say, who's driving for, I believe, the Manor team, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is Manor, of course, because the other Viper driver is Yuri Kratichville. So Simon Mutka now then, just making his way out of turn 3 now, then he will go. As now, let's see what his first sector is like compared to Patacek. And he is 1/10 down in the first sector. And I think he's just a tiny bit down on Lucien, because I think Lucien was 0.111 off of Patacek in the first sector. So Lucien slightly up on Mutka in the first sector there. As now around the double right-hander we go. Pretty quick corner as now into the hairpin. Here's Mutka through the right. Then into the left-hander now. Then he will go as now he'll head his way up towards the hairpin where Albon and Hamilton, of course, had their little clash in real life in 2019. As now Mutka now then flat out through the left-hander. Let's see what his middle sector is going to look like compared to Patacek. And he's 4/10 down in that middle sector. And given that Lucien is overall 4/10 behind Patacek, it looks like Mutka is going to end up placing behind Lucien after this lap. As the Peugeot driver comes out of the turn, making his way onto the pit straight and across the line. He will now go, and where is he going to place himself? He goes into third position, 6/10 off of Patacek and 2/10 off teammate Lucien there. So as expected, really looks like Mutka a little bit off compared to Lucien at this stage.
Yeah, 2.5 tenths. Let's see what the others can do. I think basing it on this early pace, I think the Peugeots will be a bit down the grid.
Yeah, indeed, we now look at Dorian Milewski now then in the Manor, and be interested to see what his pace is like compared to Luke Mason in the Viper, of course. As now Milewski, sorry, as otherwise Rob will tell me off, starts his lap. As Guillaume Stopp is next on the racetrack. Guillaume Stopp will be next up on the racetrack in the second Manor. As now Milewski goes around turn 3, he will go. And let's see what his first sector is going to look like as he makes his way towards the end of the first sector. 1/10 down in that first sector, and I think he is slightly up on Mason, if I'm not mistaken. So out of turn number 5 then. Up the hill he goes the Polish driver, and so far keeping it tidy. We haven't seen any mistakes so far in anybody's laps around here at Interlagos. Milewski goes around the hairpin and then around along swooping a left-hander he will go as he comes out of the turn up towards the hairpin. We will go, and very easy to lose it really, because you're having to quickly straighten up the car really just as you're coming out of a right-hander there, so you could very easily lose it on the braking really whilst you're turning. 9/10 down in the middle sector. He could still be ahead of Mason, but we shall wait and see.
I think he's comfortably ahead of Mason.
See, as Milewski now then making his way onto the pit straight now then, as Dorian Milewski is now going to cross the line, and he goes into fourth position. So yep, 5/10 clear there, and like, still over a second though behind Patacek.
The final sector is only a straight basically, so...
Yeah, it's the really, like we've seen in the top class and of course other series that have raced around here as well. The main bits where you gain time, of course, is in the middle sector really. Not even the first sector, you could really say it takes much really. It's only really one major braking zone in the first sector as well. Anyway, Guillaume Stopp is next up on the racetrack. Teammates, of course, to Milewski. Let's see what he can do compared to his teammate, who's currently 4th in this session and just over a second behind Marat Patacek. As Stopp now then is about to start his lap now then. As next up on track will be Rosetta Martinez in the first of the 2 Maya Shank racing cars will be on track in just a little bit. Stopp now then through turn 2 and then around turn 3 now then he will go, as now the Frenchman will make his way down towards the end of the first sector now then. As Stopp now then, let's see what his first sector looks like. 2/10 down in the first sector, so he's down on both Milewski and Mason there in the first sector, because Mason at least was just under 2/10 behind Patacek in the first sector there, but Stopp seems to be down on Mason as well. So far not looking like a good lap for the Frenchman, but let's see if he can pick it up in this middle sector, as now through the left-hander he goes now then, where you can just lift off the acceleration just a tad bit, and now heading towards the hairpin. He will go now then as he flicks it in through the right-hander, and now heading down towards the flat-out left-hander before approaching the end of Sector 2 now then, as stops middle sector, 1.3 seconds off. So, yeah, it's going to be, I think, maybe a little bit tight with Mason, in fact, because as Yuri alluded to when we were looking at Milevski's lap, of course, this last sector, there's only really one braking zone, and that's obviously young Cal. The rest of it is just basically a straight with just some flat-out corners. Anyway, stop now then, across the line. Is he going to get ahead of Mason or not? And no, he doesn't. He's just behind him by just under a tenth. So, stop currently the slowest in the session, 1.6 seconds off of Marat Patacek, as we now look at Rosetta Martinez, who I think it's safe to say the Meyershanks this season, Yuri, have not really performed well. I'd argue they've gone a little bit more backwards compared to last season, and there seem to be a little bit more in the mix with the Manners and the Vipers this season.
Yeah, so far it's looking like they aren't that competitive, and yeah, they will. If they do well enough, they'll be able to gain points at some point.
Perhaps indeed, but of course we'll have to wait and see. Next up on track will be Frederick Soper in the Carlin, who will be next up to go out on the racetrack, as I think he's just moving now, judging from the mini-map. There's 2 tenths down for Martinez, so Martinez, I think, is also slightly down on stop, it seems. So it seems, again, the Meyershanks seemingly a little bit down on the Vipers and the Manners so far in this session, as now Martinez makes his way through the double right-hander now then, before making his way into the hairpin, and now making his way down towards the left-hander. He will go down the hill. He goes the Filipino driver, now making his way towards the hairpin. He'll go flicking it in through that right-hander before making his way down towards the flat-out left-hander. And let's see what Martinez's middle sector is going to look like. 1.2 seconds down. So given that, I think in fact, maybe not, in fact. Maybe Martinez could actually slot in between Mason and stop. We shall see. Maybe he's gained a little bit there in the middle sector. I was a little bit thrown off by that, if I'm being honest. But anyway, Martinez, across the line, he will go, and he goes, in fact, ahead of Mason. So despite the fact that he was down on both Mason and Stop in the first sector, he seemed to gain it all back in the middle sector there.
Yep, and that's the most important sector. I think when you see the gap after sector 2, you see mostly. You can pretty accurately guess where the car is going to end up.
Indeed, as now we look at Frederick Soper. Next up on track will be the second Meyershank racing car, this time being Yuri Gabriel that will go out next on the track. Soper through turn 2, he will go. The first of the 2 Carlin to be on track. We're yet to see Lorenzo Tomaselli make his way onto the racetrack, as now Soper now heading towards the end of the first sector now then, and he is 1 tenth down on Patacek in that first sector. So far Patacek seemingly having the pace in the first sector. Of course, we're still yet to see the faster cars do a lap, so let's reserve judgment on that one really, as now Soper coming around the double right-hander there, he'll go before making his way into the hairpin now then, as the Gallagher sponsored Carlin with Jenny Capital on the top makes his way through the left-hander, and of course Gillette sponsorship on the rear wing, as now coming towards the hairpin we go, as now Soper heading towards the flat-out left-hander. He will go. Let's see what his middle sector looks like compared to Patacek, and it is 5 tenths down in that middle sector, so he should comfortably be way clear of the Manners, Meyershank, and of course the Vipers, but whether he'll be ahead of Mutka, I am not sure. Let's see if he can beat his former teammate or not. It's Frederick Soper now then, coming down the straight and across the line. He will go now then, and he goes into 3rd position. So he does beat Mutka, but only just by 17 thousandths of a second, splitting the 2 Peugeots there as a result. As we now look at Yuri Gabriel, who is next up on the track in the second Meyershank racing car, as he goes flat out through the left-hander there, as the Brazilian in front of his home fans. Of course, there are a few Brazilians in this race, of course, hoping to do well in front of their adoring fans, including Gabriel Gomez, of course, will be looking to do well around here and see if he could potentially try and end the Penske streak that we've got going on this season, because Penske have won the first 3 races so far, and no other team has been able to stop them so far. Andretti and even Pyramid, who have looked competitive this season, haven't been able to stop them so far. Next up on track will be Luca Farina in the Chip Ganassi racing car, as Yuri Gabriel now then comes out of turn 3. There he goes, and let's see what Gabriel's first sector is like compared to Patacek, and it's 3 tenths down in that first sector, and I think that's quite slow, it seems, in the first sector. Probably the slowest I think we've actually seen in that first sector, because I think Martinez was actually a little bit quicker in that first sector. So clearly Gabriel struggling in the first sector, but of course we did see that Martinez gained most of his time in the middle sector, so we'll see if Yuri Gabriel is able to replicate the same thing or not, as they go around the left-hander now then, heading up towards Hairpin now, then will go Yuri Gabriel in the Meyer Shank racing car as he comes out of the hairpin, now making his way towards the flat-out left-hander. Let's see what Gabriel's middle sector is going to look like, and he's 1.6 seconds down, and given that to stop is 1.608 down, I think Gabriel is going to be the slowest here as a result. He hasn't been able to do what his teammate did earlier and gain time in that middle sector. Gabriel now then heading back onto the pit straight, and across the line will go one of the few Brazilians on the grid, and he goes into ninth, 1.9 seconds off, nearly 2 seconds off of Mount Patacek. Not a great lap there for Yuri Gabriel.
Yeah, that was pretty horrible, to be honest.
As now Luca Farina, the Italian in the Chip Ganassi racing car, is preparing to do a lap quite soon. Of course, last time out in Road America, he got a grid penalty, of course, for an accident that he caused at the Circuit of the Americas, but thankfully he doesn't have to worry about a grid penalty this time by. There are no grid penalties for this race anyway, so whatever happens in this qualifying session, it'll be exactly the same when we get onto the grid. As Farina now then just goes out of the penultimate corner, now through the final turn he goes, as now Farina starts his lap now then here at Interlagos. Next up on track will be Yuri Kratichvel in the second Viper car, as now Farina through turns 1, 2 and 3 now then he will go as he makes his way for the flat out left-hander. He will now go as now heading towards the end of the first sector. Let's see what his first sector time is like compared to Patacek, and he's 2 tenths down in that first sector, so yeah, not the best of first sectors there for Luca Farina, but we'll see what his middle sector is like as the Mercedes powered Chip Ganassi makes his way up towards the double right-hander through the first one, then through into the second one. There he goes, as now heading their way through the right-hander now then, through the right and then into the left-hander. We shall go, making their way out of the turn, making his way up towards the hairpin. He will now go, flicking it in through the right-hander, and let's see what Farina is able to do in the middle sector compared to Marat Patacek, as now heading into the middle sector, 1 second off in that middle sector. So not looking at a very good lap here for the Chip Ganassi of Luca Farina, but let's see. As Farina now, they're making his way the final couple of corners on the racetrack. So far, it's not been the best of seasons for Chip Ganassi. They did seem to have gone backwards ever since they switched to Mercedes power after having Honda power last season. Farina goes into 6th position behind Malevsky, which is quite interesting. Under 4 tenths behind the manner of Dorian Malevsky there. So given the team he's at, Yuri, that's a pretty poor lap for Farina.
Yeah, it's a poor lap, but also I think we are starting to see this season that the Manos and the Vipers do have a fighting chance.
Yeah, indeed. Seems that they have the 1 lap pace maybe hooked up at the moment. Next up, after Yuri Kratichvel has just started the lap, will be Lorenzo Tomaselli in the second Carlin car. As let's see what the Czech rookie is able to do, heading his way towards the end of the first sector now then, and he's 1 tenth down on Patacek in the first sector, so a pretty solid first sector there for Yuri Kratichvel. As now coming out of turn 5 there he will go, and now heading his way towards the double right-hander he'll go through the first part, then into the second part he'll go, and now making his way into the hairpin now then he will go, before making his way through this long swooping left-hander he will go. Yuri Kratichvel now then heading towards the hairpin now then he'll go, as now he flicks the car in through that right-hander, as now he'll make his way down towards the flat-out left-hander. Let's see what Kratichvel's middle sector is going to look like. 6 tenths off in that middle sector. He could actually beat Malevsky here if he can keep this up, but we shall see. As now Kratichvel making his way around the penultimate turn, making his way into the flat-out final corner, and let's see what Kratichvel is able to do then. So the Czech driver is now going to cross the line, and he goes into 5th position. So in fact, he's way clear of Malevsky. He's not that far off Simon Mutka. So overall, 7 tenths off Patacek. A very good lap there for Yuri Kratichvel.
Yeah, that's a strong lap for the Viper driver.
As we now look at Lorenzo Tomaselli now then in the Carlin, as they now make their way through the right-hander, and now flat out through the long swooping left-hander he'll go, as now Tomaselli making his way towards Young Cal now then, as he flicks the car in through that left-hander, as missing the curb actually a little bit, coming out of the turn there, as now Tomaselli starting his lap, and teammate Soper currently up in 3rd place, so we'll see what the Italian is able to do on this lap. Tomaselli now then starts his lap. Next up on track will be Enis Parachki in the second McLaren, and it'll be interesting to see what his pace is like compared to teammate Patacek, who's currently at the top of the timing screens, as now Tomaselli making his way around the flat-out left-hander he will go, and let's see what his first sector is going to look like now then, approaching the end of the first sector. 2 temps down in that first sector, and well, not the best first sector considering that what we saw with Yuri Kratichville in the first sector, because he was under 2 temps down on Patacek in that first sector. So Tomaselli, unless he can find something in the middle sector, could potentially be behind Yuri Kratichville here if he's not careful. Tomaselli now then through into the hairpin he goes, and now making his way through the long swooping left-hander now then he'll go, and making his way towards the hairpin now then he'll go as he flicks it in through that right-hander coming out the turn, and now flat out through that left-hander he goes. Let's see what Tomaselli's middle sector is going to look like, and he is 8 temps down in that middle sector, and he's down on Kratichville as you can see. So yeah, he might even, if he's gonna, maybe not just behind Kratichville, if he's not careful, he might end up behind Malevsky here. But let's see, Tomaselli heading down the straight, and Lorenzo Tomaselli is now going to cross the line, and he goes into 6th position. So thankfully he doesn't get beaten by Malevsky, but there's not much between them there, 27 thousandths covering him there between 6th and 7th. So yeah, not the best of laps there for Tomaselli. 4 temps off of teammate Soper as we now look at Enis Parachki in the second McLaren, and it should be curious to see what his pace is like compared to teammate Marat Patacek. As I was just checking something there. Parachki there now coming around Young Cal now then, as the Macedonian driver is about to start his lap quite soon now then, as now heading in towards the final couple of the corners. We'll go the 2017 GP2 champion. Of course, he's got good memories around here because this was where he actually won the GP2 championship back in 2017, so he has got some good memories of this circuit. Hasn't been here for a while though, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can rekindle the memories a little bit. Next up on track will be Gabriel Gomez in the Andretti, so the Brazilian fans will be up on their feet again when he comes out onto the track, as Parachki 43 thousandths down on his teammate Patacek in the first sector. Not much between them there, and of course Parachki still yet to negotiate this middle sector, so he could still gain some time back on his teammate into this sector, but we shall of course wait and see, as Parachki now then through into the double right-hander we go, as now Parachki flicks it in for the right, and then into the left-hander now then we will go, as now Parachki will soon approach the hairpin now then, up towards that hairpin he will go as he flicks it in through that right-hander. Parachki now then heading down towards the flat-out left-hander, and let's see what Parachki's middle sector looks like, and he's 3 temps down on his teammate in fact, so he's lost a little bit more time on his teammate through into that sector there. Parachki up the hill, now heading his way into the final couple of the corners, and he might end up behind Lucin if he's not careful here, but let's see. Parachki across the line, he will go now then, and he goes into second place. So thankfully he doesn't on that occasion. So currently a McLaren 1-2, but 3 temps off teammate Patacek as now.
That's going to end when Gomez probably will beat them.
Oh, you say that, but we shall wait and see, of course. Gomez did not have the best of races at Road America, so we'll see if that's going to be the case here at Interlagos. But of course, it is his home race. The home fans will definitely be cheering him on to try and see if he can get something out of this qualifying session, as the Andretti driver, the first of the top cars in this session, is about to start his lap. Next up will be Jared Fosbury in the second Chip Ganassi, as now Gomez rounds the first couple of corners now. Then we go through turns 2 and around turn 3 we shall go, and we'll see what Gomez's first sector is like compared to Marat Patacek's in the first sector. So Gomez approaching the end of the first sector quite soon now then, and he's 8 thousandths down on Patacek in that first sector, but of course it is possible to gain in the middle sector, so we'll see how the Andretti is hooked up in that middle sector, as Gomez now then heading his way up towards the double right-hander through the first part, then through into the second part he goes, as now Gomez making his way into the hairpin, flicks it in through that right-hander, and now heading his way through the long swooping left-hander he will go, as he now comes out of the turn, making his way up towards the hairpin now then will go, as now through the right goes Gabriel Gomez, now heading his way through the left-hander. Has he been able to gain some time on Patacek in this middle sector? Let's see, approaching the end of the middle sector, and yes he has. He's purple now in that middle sector, so let's see if he can keep it up on this straight. Gabriel Gomez up the hill he goes out, as he's only just passed Young Cal now then through the penultimate turn, now into the final corner goes Gabriel Gomez in the Andretti car, as Gabriel Gomez now then is about to cross the line. Can he go to the top? And yes he can, but only by 10th of a second, a 1 minute 11.658, so not that much of a gap there between him and Patacek.
Yeah, not that big of a gap. I don't think that's going to be the pole time. It's hard to see for me. I think there's going to be several cars putting a faster lap out there. So a bit off for Gomez, I think.
Yeah, indeed, we'll see what that's like when his teammate Florian Volker makes his way onto the track a little bit later. We now look at Jared Fosbury in the Chip Ganassi race car. Got some solid points last time out at Road America, so we'll see if he's able to keep that up here at Interlagos, as Fosbury is now about to start his flying lap here. Of course, he has raced here previously, of course. As next up on track will be, that is Adam Wolf who'll be next up on the racetrack. I had to think there who has that spelling. It's Adam Wolf who's next up on the racetrack in the Pyramid racing car. And we know how strong Pyramid have been this season, but consistency and reliability seems to have been a bit of a problem for them this season, as Fosbury is 2 tenths down on Gomez in the first sector there. But we shall wait and see if Pyramid can turn it around in the races, because we have seen so far this season they've had good quali pace, but clearly the race has been another question for them this season. So anyway, Fosbury now then through into the hairpin. He goes as he flicks it in for the right and then into the long swooping left-hander. Now then will go the Brit as he makes his way up the hill towards the hairpin. Now then he will go as he flicks it in through that right-hander. As now, let's see what Fosbury's middle sector is going to look like now then as he approaches the end of the middle sector, and he's 1.2 seconds down in that middle sector. And well, it seems that the Chip Ganassi, like we saw with Farina a little bit earlier on, looked to be a little bit off, although I do think Fosbury might actually be a tad bit quicker there than Farina, but we shall see. Fosbury now then across the line. He will go as the Chip Ganassi driver across the line and goes into 10th position. So he does get ahead of Farina, but yeah, the Chip Ganassi is way off at the moment. As now we have Adam Wolf in the Pyramid racing car, and we've seen how strong this car is in qualifying, Yimi, but the race, they've just been, well, they've not been able to replicate the results they've been showing in qualifying this season.
Well, they've been having some car issues, basically.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy, and speaking of pyramids, Thomas Anderson will be next up on the track, but Wolf, his teammate... Yeah, agreed. I think Anderson arguably should have won at Indianapolis earlier this season if his car didn't break down on him there, as Adam Wolf now then is going to approach the end of the first sector now then, and he's 2 thousandths down on Gomez in the first sector. But we saw what Gomez was able to do with Patacek earlier on, and given it's only 2 thousandths, that's very easy for Wolf to maybe recover in the middle sector. So we'll see if the power maxed liveried Pyramid racing car can replicate that, as Wolf now then heads into the hairpin. He goes through the right and then into the left-hander now then. He will go as he flicks it in through the long swooping left-hander. He'll go. Wolf now then up towards the hairpin. He'll go now around the right-hander out of the turn, and now making his way down towards the flat-out left-hander. Let's see what Wolf's middle sector is like compared to Gomez, and he's 3 tenths down, in fact. So he's not had the best middle sector there. I didn't see a mistake from him there, so it seems that he couldn't get the car hooked up. He's even down on Patacek as well in the middle sector.
Yates is going to get a very high grid position today, I feel it.
Now Wolf crosses the line and he goes into 3rd position, so 3 tenths off of Gomez, but behind Marat Patacek. So that was some lap there from the McLaren driver. But let's see if Thomas Anderson has similar issues. The second Pyramid racing car, who is now out on track. And arguably, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, Anderson should have had a victory this season. So far this season, he's had 2 pole positions. 2 out of 3 pole positions this season has Thomas Anderson. So he has been a little bit of a qualifying expert this season. Has the Swedish driver, the brother, of course, of current championship leader Julius Anderson, of course, who took the lead in the championship last time out after winning the last 2 races in Austin and Road America, respectively. And let's see if Thomas Anderson can try and keep up his qualifying form here, as he now starts his lap now then in the Pyramid. As next up on track will be Florian Volker in the second Andretti Autosport car. As now Anderson through into the first few turns now, then he goes out of turn 2 and then around turn 3. He will go. Let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to Gabriel Gomez. Wolf was 2 thousandths down on Gomez in the first sector on his lap. Let's see what Anderson's first sector is like. He's 9 thousandths down, so he's in fact 7 thousandths down on Adam Wolf in the first sector there. And let's see if Anderson has similar sort of issues to what Wolf had when it came to hooking it up in this middle sector. He's made a mistake! He's made a mistake. That's a lock up there for the Swedish driver. And, well, any chance of trying to get another pole position has gone down the toilet there, Yuri.
I thought he was going to crash.
Well, thankfully he corrected it, but either way, Yuri, chance of pole position down the toilet there for him.
Yep, very likely that's the case. Let's see how bad it is. 7 tenths almost.
Yeah, that's not very good for Thomas Anderson. So a bit like his brother at the last race, it looks like he's going to have to do a recovery mission during the race. As now Anderson making his way down towards the pit straight now. Then let's see where Anderson places himself after that mistake, as he now crosses the line and he goes into 6th position. He's behind Alex Eric Lucian as a result of that.
It's not that
For
bad.
a pyramid, it's not the best, if we're being totally honest. Next up is Florian Volker in the Andretti Autosport car, as the German now then makes his way through the left-hander, the 5-time top-class champion, as the German now then is going to start his lap quite soon there. I had to take a little bit of a gulp there, as now Volker flat out through the left-hander he goes. He now makes his way towards the end of the middle sector through Young Cow. He will go. Of course, we will be a little bit delayed when it comes to the race, of course, because we did have that little bit of an error there when it came to the performances earlier on in qualifying, so don't be alarmed if we do go a little bit over time here. So Florian Volker now then starts his lap. Next up will be Zachary Fitzwater, the former championship leader, who'll be desperate to try and reclaim that championship lead back here at Interlagos. Volker, of course, great memories around here in Brazil because, of course, most of his championships are won at this circuit, of course.
He had a tweet on the corner.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, but either way, he's still up on Gomez in the first sector.
Well, maybe that helped him.
Maybe it did a little bit. Maybe a blessing in disguise for the German, as he's 63 thousandths up on Gabriel Gomez in the first sector. So even though he made a mistake, clearly it didn't make that much of a difference there for the German driver. As now Volker making his way through the hairpin. He goes for the right and left-hander, really. 4 of his 5 championships, as mentioned, of course, in the top class, were won at this circuit. So he has got some good memories around here. As now Volker comes around the right-hander, he goes, and he now makes his way towards the flat-out left-hander. Let's see what his middle sector is going to look like compared to Gabriel Gomez. And he's again purple in the middle sector by nearly 2/10 of a second here. So let's see if Volker can keep this up as he makes his way up the hill now then. Volker through into the final couple of corners. He will go now then. He was on the front row, I think, in Road America last time out, if I'm not mistaken. And he's looking to try and go one better here at Interlagos. Across the line, and he's 2/10 quicker. 1:11.456. Volker to the top of the timing screens.
Yep, I think that was a good lap from him. There's, of course, the Penske factor coming in yet still. So let's see what goes on in the last few cars.
So far this season, Penske have not been the best when it comes to qualifying. It's mainly been their race pace that has been a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Quite a dominating factor so far, hence why they've won the first 3 races of the season. Next up on track, of course, will be Tadej Daniel in the first of the 2 Ferraris. Ferrari, of course, having a great race last time out at Road America, nearly winning it, of course, after La Rosa tried to do a 1-stop compared to what Anderson was doing, which was a 2-stop, but in the end, Anderson's 2-stop ended up being the better strategy. Fitzwater coming towards the end of the first sector, 87,000 down on Volker there in the first sector, so nearly a 10th off of the German driver in sector 1, as now Fitzwater now then will make his way up towards the double right-hander. He will go as he flicks it in through the double right-hander, and now heading his way in towards the hairpin now then. He will go as he flicks it in through that left-hander now, then making his way up the hill now then, heading into the hairpin. Will go the Australian driver, as now he'll go towards the end of sector 2. Let's see what it's like compared to Volker on this occasion, heading towards the end of sector sector 2. 5/10 off. He's even down on Patacek and a Wolf as well. So this is not looking to be a good lap here for the former championship leader, Zachary Fitzwater, as now he makes his way towards the final corner, and the Australian driver, he's now going to cross the line. Fitzwater across the line he goes, and he goes into 5th position. So yeah, not a good lap there for Zachary Fitzwater.
That's a horrible lap. Like you're not supposed to qualify that much off in a Penske. That's for sure.
Yeah, indeed, and clearly Fitzwater's going to have a little bit to do in the race.
Didn't even see a clear mistake in the lap.
Just clearly couldn't get it hooked up, really. As now, next up on track will be Tadej Daniel in the Ferrari now then. The blue and white Ferrari, of course, his teammate is in the red Ferrari, of course. Francesco La Rosa, the man, of course, who nearly won last time. We've got 3 cars left. Tadej Daniel, Francesco La Rosa, and, of course, Julius Anderson will be the last one to go out on track, as the Hungarian now then is starting his lap. Francesco La Rosa, his teammate, of course, will be next to go out on track, as Daniel now then flicks it in through the first 3 turns. He will go as Tadej Daniel now then around the flat out turn 3. he will go, and let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to Florian Volker. Heading towards the end of the first sector now, then goes Delebosch Daniel, and he's 2 tenths down in that first sector. He's even down on Fitzwater at the moment, so this might not even be a good lap for Daniel unless he's able to hook it in the middle sector, but we shall see, of course, because this is where you're going to gain or lose most of the time on this lap. Now, through the double right-hander goes the Hungarian driver, heading up towards the hairpin he goes, so through the right and into the left-hander now, then we'll go Delebosch Daniel as he comes out of the turn, making his way towards the hairpin now, then he will go, and now he will make his way towards the end of the second sector. Delebosch Daniel now then heading towards the end of sector 2, 7 tenths down in that middle sector, and yeah, he's behind Fitzwater, and he could even get behind Parachki and maybe even Lucian here, so this is not looking to be the best of laps for Delebosch Daniel here as the Hungarian driver makes his way onto the pit straight now then, and across the line he will now go. Daniel across the line, and he goes into 8th position. That is, he's just in front of Thomas Anderson there, who, let's not forget, made a mistake going up into turn number 6. So, yeah, not the best of laps there for Delebosch Daniel. We'll see what his teammate Francesco La Rosa is able to do, but, yeah, not very encouraging for Ferrari.
Yeah, Daniel's lap wasn't the best. It wasn't awful, but I think there's a bit more potential there.
We shall see. It's now La Rosa now then is starting his lap. Let's see what sort of pace he has in his Ferrari, as the last car on track will, of course, be the winner of the last 2 races and the current championship leader, Julius Anderson. He'll be next up on the racetrack as La Rosa goes through turns 2 and 3 now then on the racetrack, as the Italian now then just comes around the 3rd corner. And now let's see what his first sector is like compared to Florian Volker, as he's 1 tenth down in that first sector, but he is definitely up on Delebosch Daniel in the first sector. Is the Italian, is now coming around turn 5. He will go, as now making his way up towards the double right-hander now, then he goes for the first part, then through the second part. He will go, as now La Rosa make his way into the hairpin through the right and then into the left-hander now, then we will go as he flicks it in through the corner. Now up towards the hairpin now, then we will go as now the Italian goes around the right-hander, heading his way towards the flat-out left-hander. He will go, and let's see what La Rosa's middle sector is going to look like, and he's 7 tenths down in that middle sector there. So he's actually lost a lot of time in that middle sector, despite the fact that Daniel had a pretty poor first sector. It seems that La Rosa's not had the best middle sector there. La Rosa now then across the line. He will go. Where's he going to place himself? And he goes into 9th. He's actually behind Delebosch Daniel, so he lost a heck of a lot of time in that middle sector there, Yuri.
Yeah, this wasn't the best of qualifying for the Ferrari, but they can come back in the race, as we see Julius Anderson, who has the chance for the pole position.
He does indeed, but whether he can or not is going to be another question. Just checking, of course, because I know that his brother's had a pole position this season, but I'm not sure if Julius has as well. And the answer to that is no. It was, in fact, his teammate has got the other pole position. So Julius is yet to get a pole position this season. Could today be the day, of course, as we know that Volker is once again starting on the front row. But is it going to be a pole position for the 5-time top-class champion, as Anderson, the final car on track, starts his lap as the championship leader makes his way through into the first few turns. Through turns 1, 2 and 3 now then we will go as the Swedish driver makes his way for the long swooping left-hander. Let's see what his first sector is going to look like compared to Florian Volker now then. Approaching the end of the first sector he goes, and he's 45 thousandths down on Volker in the first sector. So let's see if Anderson is able to find some time in the middle sector, unlike what his teammate Fitzwater did a little bit earlier on. As now Anderson making his way towards the double right-hander he goes. Now then up the hill he goes, now into the hairpin goes the Swedish championship leader, the 2016 DTM champion. Through the long swooping left-hander he goes, up the little hill he goes now then, before heading his way into the hairpin. Through the right-hander he goes as he comes out of the turn before making his way flat out through the left-hander. Let's see what his middle sector looks like then compared to Volker, and he is 5 tenths down. He's way down as well, so like with Fitzwater, he's not been able to hook it up. He could even be behind Fitzwater, it seems, as he was quicker than Fitzwater in the first sector. sector, but clearly lost a lot more in the middle sector compared to the Australian. As Julius Anderson now then comes across the line in the Andretti, and he goes into 5th position. He just beats Fitzwater, but it means for the first ever time in World Champ Car history, Florian Volker is on pole position. It's an Andretti front row lockout, and Florian Volker claims his first ever pole in World Champ Car. The 5-time champion has done it indeed. So Florian Volker is on pole position with Gabriel Gomez in 2nd place. Mamet Patacek starts in 3rd with Adam Wolf 4th. Julius Anderson starts in 5th with Zachary Fitzwater in 6th. The 2 Penske's will lock out row 3. Anis Parachki will start in 7th. So a good day in the office for McLaren with Alex Eric Lucin in 8th. Dorebosch Daniel is in 9th with Francesco La Rosa in 10th. Thomas Anderson, thanks to that mistake, is all the way down in 11th with Frederick Soper in 12th. Simon Mutka 13th. Jurek Kratichville, a good qualifying for him, in 14th position. Lorenzo Tomaselli in 15th. Dorian Malevsky in 16th, Jared Fosby 17th, Luca Farina in 18th. Not a great day for Chip Ganassi, with Rosetta Martinez in 19th, Luke Mason in 20th, Gillum Stopp in 21st, and Yuri Gabriel in 22nd position. The only driver over 2 seconds off the pace. So we're just going to take a brief pause whilst Yuri sorts out the grid, so stick around because the race will be coming up also on this stream. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to get the tweet prepared for Twitter, so apologies if I go silent for a little bit.
Ding ding dong.
I'm back. The tweet is now up on Twitter, and well, it should be interesting to see what the Andrettis can do. They're both locking out the front row with Gabriel Gomez alongside Florian Volker, who will line up on pole position for the first ever time in World Champ Car. The last time he's had a pole, I think, in the OC, because I don't think he had one in DTM. I will quickly double check, but I don't think he had one when he was in DTM, of course. because he did struggle when he was in DTM, but when he made the switch back to Formula cars, he seemed to do a lot better than what he did in a touring car. But the last time he actually had a pole position was actually his final top class race, the Brazilian Grand Prix, at this very track. So yeah, he's got back-to-back poles here at Interlagos at two different series there. So a bit. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see though if Florian can actually try and get victory here. His first victory since the 2020 Indy 500, I believe it was the last time he won. But the last time in a championship race, it was the when was his last win? It was the 2018. God, I'm having to think now because he's had that many victories. The 2018, I think it was the 2018 Japanese Grand Prix, his last victory, if I'm not mistaken. I think Florian can probably clarify that if he's in the stream chat. But yeah, it'd be interested to see if Florian can actually try and get victory today. But of course, you cannot ever rule out Penske, as we've seen so many times. Whilst their qualifying has been a little bit 50-50, it's safe to say. Their race pace has been absolutely brilliant this season, and they'll be looking to see if they can make it 4 wins out of 4 here today at Interlagos. The first ever time, of course, that World ChampCar is racing here in Brazil. We'll be interested to see what the strategy is like. Because it's a new track, I've got no idea what the laps is. I do know that it is a 75% if I'm not mistaken there. So I guess we'll have a look at what the laps are when we get onto the grid. But yeah, it should be quite interesting. It should be interesting to see what Thomas Anderson can do from P11 after his mistake at turn 6, whether he can make his way up through the field. But good qualifying from Marat Patacek. I didn't mention it whilst we were reading the results, but a great qualifying for him to get up into 3rd position. So a good qualifying for him in the McLaren. 3rd and 7th for the two Arrow McLaren SPs, it's fair to say. The BMW Arrow McLaren SPs, I should say. So should be quite interesting to see what sort of race they could do today, as Patacek is actually the highest placed BMW powered car on the grid. So we'll see if the McLaren can actually have quite a good race here today, and maybe try and see if they can get maybe a podium if they're not able to have the pace to challenge for a victory just yet.
Just a correction, you said 75% race distance, it's 70%.
Sorry, 70%. I was wondering what distance it was there, because I knew it was in the 70s.
I'll have to grab some food real quick. The race will be ready, but like when we begin the race, I'm not going to comment that when I eat.
All right, fair enough. As we will wait now then to get onto the grid. Whether we obviously, of course, last time out of Road America was the first time we saw this. We did have a bit of a split strategy across the field. We did have some going for a 2-stop and one going for a 1-stop, whereas what we saw in the first 2 races, everyone was opting to go for the 2-stop. Whether or not here at Interlagos the drivers will revert back to that logic, or whether we'll once again see a split strategy like we saw at Road America 3 weeks ago, we shall wait and see. But it should hopefully make for quite an interesting race. We know that this track is overtake friendly around here, so that could be something that could play into the Penske's hands, especially what we've seen so far this season from them, because they have had some very good race pace this season. It is fair to say, and none of the teams have been able to stop them so far in 2022. So it'll be interested to see if Anderson can try and make it 3 wins in a row or not. That will be something interesting to keep an eye on there. But so far, just like last season, Penske clearly are the benchmark this season in the championship. And I think it's safe to say, judging from what the stream chat was saying 3 weeks ago, I think people are hoping that the streak actually comes to an end today for Team Penske. But we shall wait and see, of course.
Penske, the most hated team in the OC.
It seems so when it comes to dominance. But yeah, that's pretty much really. So obviously we have obviously the Ferraris down on row 5, not being able to replicate the pace they were able to demonstrate at Road America, but we shall see if their race pace is any different, of course. I mean, obviously they got a double podium last time out of Road America just 3 weeks ago, and they'll be looking to see if they can add even more points to their account. Of course, Ferrari this season, it's safe to say, apart from Road America, so far this season they've not had the best of races, it's fair to say. They seem to have gone a little bit backwards compared to last season, but they still seem to be up there on occasion, like Ferrari were last season when they had both Rubino Gonzalez and Sam Thompson in the car. So it seems that both Delay Bosch Daniel and and Francesca La Rosa have been able to replicate that so far this season. So it should be quite interesting, it's fair to say. As I'm just going to take a quick drink. Don't want my throat to be dry during this, of course. But yeah, so be quite interesting whether or not Andretti could try and get a victory or not this season. Whether it will be with Volker or with Gomez, it should make for quite an interesting race indeed. And so we shall wait and see how this one goes, really. Of course, whilst we wait for Yuri, because he's just had to pop off and do something for a moment. Whilst we wait for Yuri, of course, don't forget as well, we obviously have the top class this week, the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard, and of course, DTM is also on this week as well, taking place at Spielberg. Miran FG's first race back, of course, after Blake Moore had to sadly retire from the series due to personal reasons. So we wish Blake all the very best, and hopefully he's doing okay. So that's pretty much that, really. As of course, there's no F2 this week. Unfortunately, there would have been, but because of the delay that Yuri had with obviously the snow issues that he had for the Spanish Grand Prix, the next F2 race will of course be on next week, which will be the Austrian Grand Prix at Spielberg. And of course, next week as well. Don't forget, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. So the weekend of the real life Australian Grand Prix in the real life Formula 1 season, of course. Next weekend, of course, the 2023 sign-ups will officially open, and it's usually quite an exciting time for the OC as well. So do look out for that indeed, and it's going to be very interesting indeed as we're getting close to the silly season for the OC. And, of course, the GP4 OC news will be returning very, very soon, of course, during that silly season. So do look forward to that one, really. So, yep, just waiting to get underway. Of course, we are a little bit delayed for anybody wondering why it says 3:45, because, of course, earlier on during the qualifying session, Yuri made a little bit of an error with the performance file. So that's why we're a little bit delayed. But we're trying to get things back on track now. Luckily, we haven't got any F2 action today, so it's not like we're going to be crossing over into anything today. As for some reason, my dog is once again scratching on the door. I think that might be the dog commentator that's scratching on the door. So that's pretty much that. I don't know what she's hearing. I think she might be hearing the Hoover or something like that, or the vacuum cleaner, as it's also known as. Because, yeah, my dogs don't like the vacuum cleaner, like most dogs in the world. So, apologies if you can hear any scratching in the background. It's just my dog, for some reason, scratching on my door there. But anyway, we're about to get underway now then, here at Interlagos for 50 laps of action. Should be interested to see what the strategy is like going into this. So, for anybody who missed out on qualifying, this is what the grid looks like then. It's an all Andretti front row with Florian Volker for the first ever time in World ChampCar on pole position, with Gabriel Gomez alongside in second place. Marat Patricek, a very impressive third in the McLaren, followed by Adam Wolff in fourth position. Julius Anderson starts in fifth, with Zachary Fitzwater in sixth, the two Penskes locking out row three. Enis Parachki starts in seventh, with Alex-Eric Lucien in eighth position. The two Ferraris lock out row 5, with Doré Bosch Daniel in 9th and Francesca La Rosa in 10th. Thomas Anderson, thanks to a mistake in qualifying, starts down in 11th, with Frederick Soper in the Carlin in 12th position. P13 on the grid goes to Simon Mutka in the Peugeot, followed by Yuri Kratichvili, a very impressive qualifying for him in the Viper in 14th. Lorenzo Tomaselli starts in 15th, with Dorian Malevsky in 16th. Jared Fosbury and Luca Farina lock out row 9 in the Chip Ganassis in 17th and 18th. Rosetta Martinez starts in 19th, with Luke Mason in 20th, and on the back row of the grid is Guillaume Stop and Yuri Gabriel, who round out the grid. Let's have a look at what the weather is going to look like, and well, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a wet race here at Interlagos, and it looks like it's going to be changeable. It looks like it's going to be normal wet conditions to start with, but then it is going to get heavier, as you can see. So it should make for quite an interesting race indeed, and then it could possibly get lighter towards the end of the race, but we shall see. So it should be an interesting race. So without further ado, let us get on with the World Champ Car race here at Interlagos, and hopefully it should be quite an exciting race indeed. So here we are then on the grid here at Interlagos then. It is Volker on pole position. He's on the left-hand side of your screen. We have Gabriel Gomez on the left, the two Andretti's on the right side. The two Andretti's locking out the front row. Who is going to get the lead into the first corner, as we have 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, And now we have 5 lights on here at Interlagos. It is lights out, and away we go here at Interlagos. Who is going to get the lead into the first corner now? Then looks like Volker has had an initial good start, but it looks like Gomez on the second phase has got a better one, and he's jumped him into the first corner. Looks like Wolf has also had a good start. He's dropped Patacek up into third. Volker keeps him back, but Gomez takes the lead in his home race. The Brazilian fans cheer on as Gomez leads the way coming out of the first few turns. Volker down to second place, and he's got Wolf all over the back, who's also made a place up at the start as they make their way down towards the fourth corner now on the track. Wolf now on the inside of Florian Volker now. Then can he get second place? He can do indeed as Anderson takes fourth from Patacek, who's not had a very good start there. So Julius Anderson now up into fourth position as everybody kept it clean. It seems everybody's kept it clean for the first few turns, surprisingly. But it is Gomez who leads the way from Adam Wolf in second place. Parachki has not had a good start. He's down to 10th, dropping 3 places from his original grid spot as the 2 Ferraris have also had a decent start as La Rosa has gained 3 places off the start for him there as Anderson has not been able to gain a place on the start, but Gomez having a gap to Adam Wolf in the early stages as Volker has already got Anderson on his rear end there. So that's pretty much that there as they now make the way through into the left-hander now. Then we will go on the racetrack now then. As now coming around Young Cow now, then we go as it's 2.2 seconds now. It's opened up between Gomez and Wolf as they make their way up the hill now. Then before making their way into the final couple of corners, we shall go now. Then Anderson looking like he's going to try and pounce on Volker if he can, but it looks like Volker might actually have a bit of a gap. Meanwhile, Fitzwater is now all over the back of Marat Patacek now. Then as they go side by side down towards the first corner, has Fitzwater got the move done? I think he has done, and yes, he has. So Fitzwater up into 5th position as his teammate Anderson is trying to attack Volker in front. Look like Volker could be under pressure going down the back straight here with Anderson in front. As we look at Wolf, he's just coming out the corner, but just keep an eye on the background now then as Volker could be under pressure here, but he looks like he's not moving. Where's Anderson on the racetrack? Is he on the inside of him? He is indeed, and Anderson takes 3rd place off of Florian Volker. So Volker off the podium from pole position, and Julius Anderson, the championship leader, is already up into 3rd place, but Volker is trying to get him back if he can as they make their way through the double right-hander now then on the racetrack. Coming out the turn, and that's pretty much that really, but Gomez leading by 3.1 seconds, but I wonder if Anderson is going to start to chase him on the back. As now coming out of the turn as so far Volker in a Penske sandwich at the moment, as he's also got Fitzwater right behind Volker, still keeping up with Julius Anderson at this stage of the race now then, as Wolf now then just coming around the left-hander now then. We will go as now they make their way towards Young Cow now then. As now coming out of the turn, as look at Gomez who's continuing to lead the way out in front now then, as he's now going to start lap 3 of 50 quite soon now then in the race as they now make their way down towards the pit straight. Meanwhile, Fitzwater on the back here of Florian Volker. Is he going to get P4 here off the German? Gomez with another fastest lap of the race now then. Anderson still going defensive it seems, surprisingly, but Fitzwater didn't need to wait for the corner and he's already up into 4th position. It looks like Fitzwater might actually have some more pace here compared to Julius Anderson as they could be fighting here for 3rd position as they now make their way out of turn number 3 now then we go, but it looks like Fitzwater might be just a little bit too far back to challenge at this point in time, as meanwhile we've got La Rosa trying to attack Patacek for 6th place, but he can't get the moved stick and he has to hang back as a result of that as they come around these section of corners now then. But yeah, at the moment La Rosa still in 7th place, not able to find a very firm Patacek, but Gomez still leading the way here as we speak. I don't know if you're back at the moment.
I'm back.
Yeah, Gomez leading the way and having quite a big lead in front.
Yeah, Gomez got a lightning start and he's really pushing his advantage in these wet conditions. Meanwhile, I would want to think that Florian Volker is on a wrong set of tire or something, because he's struggling out there.
Indeed, as now Anderson coming under attack from his teammate Fitzwater. Looks like Fitzwater is the quicker of the 2 Penske drivers at this stage now. Then it looks like Fitzwater could try and get a run here on Julius Anderson, heading down towards the pit straight. As sorry if I'm sounding a little bit in distance at the moment.
Also, looking at the strategies, I think everybody's on unplanned one stop.
Seems that it is. Of course, we are expecting changeable conditions around here as well, so it's not too much of a surprise. Fitzwater now up into third place. He's passed Anderson. La Rosa has not been able to pass Matt Patacek at the moment, as Volker still keeping up with the two penalties, but Fitzwater is now up into third position now. Meanwhile, La Rosa attacking Patacek for sixth position. Can the Italian finally get by on the McLaren down towards turn number 4? He definitely can, as Perachki also gets by on Alex-Eric Lucien then, as they both move up a place respectively. La Rosa up into 6th place, Perachki up to 8th. Still having to go a little bit defensive because Lucien is not giving up, as Thomas Anderson is now into the points. He's up into 10th place. He didn't gain a place at the start, but he's finally brought his way into the points paying positions, where we've still got all 22 cars up and running very well at the moment. But Gomez clearly giving the Brazilian fans something to cheer for at this stage, as Daniel makes a bit of an error going into the left-hander there.
Yeah, nothing major there, just slight understeer on the water.
Yeah, indeed, things that everybody having to tippy-toe around that part of the track. 7.7 seconds Gomez has got to Adam Wolf out in front at the moment, so he's definitely flying out in front at this stage as they come out of Young Cow now. They're making their way down at the straight now then. We will go as Fitzwater now pulls away from Julius Anderson, as now Perachki now attacking his teammate Patacek despite qualifying in third place. It's like Patacek is definitely going backwards at this stage now then. There's now Patacek on the inside. Sorry, Perachki on the inside of Patacek now, but he can't get the move stick. Patacek holds on to 7th, as meanwhile Thomas Anderson has overtaken. That looks to be the Peugeot there, up into 9th position. That Peugeot, I think.
Drivers are clearly on 2 sets of different tires. That is the only way to explain how some are so much faster than the others.
Actually, now on the inside of Patacek, he's up into 7th place. So yeah, maybe some on a softer compound of the normal wet, maybe others on on a harder compound of the normal wet. But Anderson making his way through pretty well as well, as they make their way through into section corners. In fact, it's actually Lucy. Yeah, it was Lucy. He actually passed the Peugeot drivers. Now Daniel will want to get that points place back, as now Thomas Anderson sets his sights on Marat Patacek in front, as they now make their way through these section of corners. Wolf a long way back from Gabriel Gomez, and I wonder if Fitzwater may be gaining onto him or not. Meanwhile, Anderson trying to put that is Marat Patacek in front under a bit of pressure as he tries to fight back after his mistake in qualifying, where he made a lockup going into turn 6, and he's basically, essentially, I think he's just basically pushing him along, going through into Young Cow there. He's definitely going to get a run on the Czech driver heading down into the first corner, as the battle between Stopp and Gabriel continues, at their battle to stay out of last place, as Gomez is now nearly 10 seconds, and in fact he's now over 10 seconds ahead of Wolf. 10.2 seconds exactly is the gap. Meanwhile, Thomas Anderson tries to have a look at Marat Patacek there, and was a little bit hesitant to begin with, and it looks like he's struggling to get by this point. He's trying to get later on the brakes there compared to McLaren, but it can't work out. But Patacek takes a wider line. Maybe Thomas Anderson could maybe pounce down towards turn 4. We shall see. Coming around turn 3 now, then we will go on the racetrack. Is Thomas Anderson going to get the move done on Marat Patacek now then? It just looks like maybe he just hasn't got the straight line speed, unless he can break that a little bit later, which he can. Down the inside he goes, and Thomas Anderson up into 8th position. Patacek continuing to go backwards. Maybe he's on the harder compound of the normal wet, Yuri, as you alluded to.
Yep, I'm just looking at the gaps here. Yeah, Gomez looks incredible at the moment. Like, it's almost unbelievable. It is unbelievable. I'm actually going to make a little checkout there in the background.
Yeah, indeed, as they now make their way through into the left-hander now then, as now we look at Adam Wolf, as it's 1.9 seconds the gap between him and Zachary Fitzwater at this stage of the race, as it looks like he's starting to open up a bit to Fitzwater at the moment, as they now make their way down the straight now then, as they now make their way down towards the first few turns on the racetrack, as now we will head towards the first corner of lap 7 of the race. Meanwhile, we can see that's Patacek having to come under pressure here from Alex-Eric Lucien, as now Lucien's trying to get 9. Meanwhile, just in front, Volker has been overtaken, I think that was La Rosa that's just overtaken him there. So Volker losing another place, this time to Francesca La Rosa, who's up into 5th place, as Thomas Anderson was, sorry, not Thomas Anderson, as Lucien was unable to wind a way through there on Marat Patacek, but now he's going to try and get the move done down towards turn number 4 if he can, as now the Frenchman tries to look on the inside. Can he brake later? No, he can't. He's not as brave as what Thomas Anderson is going into that corner, and he has to hang back as a result of that, as now they make their way through into...
I just made a little check. I had to make a check that the files are correct, and the files are correct. This pace that Gomez has, it's legit.
Yeah, it is legit from Gomez. I didn't think it was an error because there was nobody going clunky around the corners, really. So it must be a tyre thing. So anyway, it's 12.5 seconds now, the gap that Gomez has got to Adam Wolff out in front at the moment now. Then as the Penske's, it seems that Fitzwater has just not got the pace to Adam Wolff at the moment. Gomez absolutely flying at his home race at the moment, and he wants to win at home as he's continuing to pull the gap by another second there. Gomez absolutely flying out of the racetrack.
Unless something crazy happens, I think we are about to witness one of the biggest field-destroying performances of all time.
Oh, well, we need to... Well, he needs to do something to match Franco Lopez's speed. As meanwhile, Parachki is now overtaking Volker. So Volker clearly going backwards in these conditions. As Parachki is now up into 6th place. And now Thomas Anderson wants to get a hold of Volker if he can now. Then it's the Swedish driver again, still trying to make amends from that mistake he made in qualifying. It's the Swedish driver now then looks to the inside. He looks like he's got better straight line speed than what Volker has, regardless of the tyres the two of them are on. And Anderson gets a hold of 7th place pretty easily there on Florian Volker's. Patacek still doing a good job fending off Alex-Eric Lucian, but yeah, Patacek and Volker going back at this stage of the race as Gomez continues to dominate out in front as now Farina tries to have a go at, I think that is stopping, sorry, it's Malevsky who's trying to have a go at, but he can't get the move done through into that corner there. To now come out of turn 5 now, they're making their way up towards the double right-hander. We will soon approach now then as they go around these section of corners. We will go as Wolff now then, currently in 2nd place still, with a decent gap at this stage of the race as now Lucian tries to have a go. In fact, he's going to go around the outside there of Patacek. It looks like Patacek might have made a mistake going through into the hairpin there because he looked like he braked far too early and he's allowed 2 people to get through there. As well, oh no, has he got a problem? Because I saw something on him. He's got an oil leak. That's why he was going so slow around the corner. Patacek has got a problem, and what a shame. He had a good qualifying, but it's all come undone, and Patacek, I think, is going to be out of the race here, Yuri.
Yeah, I think he's out of the race. The BMW engine has gone off, and I don't think that's repairable.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you can see the smoke that's billowing. You could just about see the smoke that's billowing out the back. You can just about see it from the spray. And so, well, because of that hold up, the two Carlins are now attacking each other. The car is going to pull off right on the pit straight here. It looks like Tomaselli is going to get by on his own teammate into the first corner, which he does do. So Tomaselli gains a place there. But Marat Patacek, after a brilliant qualifying, is going to be out of the race. And we are down to 21 runners. And hopefully that tyre does not get onto the racing line at all. It looks like it's slowing down. So I think we might be okay. As, well, luckily that overtake that was seen there happened just before the yellows came out. But it was out of the yellow flag zone anyway. So I don't think it would have mattered. The tyre is actually still bouncing along at the moment at quite a bit of a speed, so hopefully
the marshals will get the tyre before it goes on the racing line.
Yep, as it's actually just bounced off the barrier there, so I think it's not going to be too much of a problem there. But yeah, confirmation, Patacek out of the race, and we are down to 21 runners. There's it's a car. The car is actually well, it wasn't that far from the garage anyway, so hopefully it shouldn't be too much of a problem as Gomez continues to lead the way out in front at the moment.
The car went straight into the pit boxes where the race engineers talk on the team radio. This is a strategy.
Luckily, though, it's only GP4, so we don't need to worry too much about that. But anyway, we're now on lap 10 of 50 now then in this race as we ride on board with Adam Wolff now then at the pyramid as he continues to lose time to Gabriel Gomez out in front. Meanwhile, it looks like, unseen by the cameras, Soper actually re-overtook Tomaselli somewhere on track, and now Tomaselli wants to place back as he's now on the inside of his own teammate, and he looks like he's going to reclaim P11, which he does. So Tomaselli back up into P number 11, and they've also got, I think that's Simon Mutka right behind, trying to attack them as well, the ex-Carlin driver. So Mutka trying to find his way through the field as well, as now Mutka making his way towards the double left-hander now. Then he will go as now, in fact, unseen by the cameras, Thomas Anderson is up into 6th place. He's past Parachki on the racetrack. So Thomas Anderson keeping up with his progress. He's now up into 6th place. And I could see from the onboard cameras Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. The skies have got brighter around here as the rain has stopped. So I did touch upon this when we saw this on the weather forecast. It does look like it's going to be changeable, maybe towards, I was expected to change towards extreme conditions, but the rain has surprisingly stopped here. So
Yeah,
maybe it could get a
was
little bit
50-50.
drier. Yeah, so maybe it could get a little bit drier, and we should wait and see on that. So maybe we could be heading towards maybe a tyre compound change in about a few laps' time or not. It's still not time yet, of course, because it's only just stopped raining. And you can see there's still quite a lot of spray on the racetrack, but
This is the kind of weather where you don't know if the track is going to get dry or if a massive thunderstorm is coming across the track and making everything really difficult.
And this track is definitely known for weather, of course. That's why people love it, of course, in real life. Meanwhile, Delibos Daniel on the inside of Alex-Eric Lucien, and he gets P9 with ease there off the Frenchman. So the Hungarian now up into 9th place, and, that's another place lost there for Alex-Eric Lucien in the Peugeot now then, as we continue to ride on board with Wolf, who's pretty much having a lonely race up in 2nd place at the present moment. As they're now coming out of the turn now then, we will go. As for some reason, my dog didn't want to leave the room there, even though she wanted to go out. So, yes, it was the dog commentator, by the way, who was refusing to go out, even though she wanted to go out. But back to the action. Over 20 seconds now, the gap between the top two, as now going down towards the pit straight, as Gomez will start lap 12 of the race, as he continues to build the lead out in front. 21.2 seconds now, the gap between him and Wolf. Another second he's pulled away there, and it looked like Gomez had a little bit of a twitch there going through into turn 1, but shouldn't matter too much given how much he's pulling away out in front at the moment as he makes his way down the back straight. Meanwhile, La Rosa is on the back of Julius Anderson here, so La Rosa has got some good pace in that Ferrari. Once again, these two, the two drivers who are battling for the win last time out of Road America, into combat again, but it's this time La Rosa that's doing the attacking instead of Anderson. And look at this, the other Anderson is also caught up as well. Thomas Anderson is in this fight, so far La Rosa is in an Anderson sandwich at the moment. He's got Julius in front, he's got Thomas behind, and now La Rosa on the inside here of the championship leader as they go side by side down towards turn 4. Is La Rosa going to get the place? And yes, he is. La Rosa up into 4th place. Can Thomas Anderson try and follow through? As Julius goes wide there, but Thomas not able to capitalise there. Julius was kind of scared into a bit of an error there through into turn 4, but Thomas was not able to capitalise. And now look, Ennis Parachki is now caught up into this. The Penskes look to be a little bit off today, Yuri.
Well, at least Julius is. Fitzwater is running decently in the podium positions. Of course, we don't know if their tire choice is the correct for these conditions, or it could also be setup related, but it seems like the win streak is probably going to coming to an end.
We shall see, of course. Still early days, of course, and if it could still happen, of course. Remember the last time we had a driver dominate out in front earlier in the season? It was this man in front, and it ended up not going the way he wanted. As now we've got a brotherly fight for P5, although Thomas has not had the best exit. Coming out of Young Cow, as now Parachki is going to try and go all the way around the outside of him if he can, but he can't capitalise on that. But that was poor traction there from Thomas Anderson. He was about to try and get a run on Julius there, but it just didn't look like he had the traction there, and it looks like Ennis just had a lot more there. A little bit strange there from the Pyramid Racing driver.
Yeah, he some reason he just didn't get it right off the corner, and now he's losing the position. As I think
first, Wolf is into
this
the pit.
is a tire change.
So look, and because I think he was on the same fuel, but it looks like it's just a normal wet change, I think, from the looks of it, because they're the same groove. So it seems that Wolf is...
The thing with this mod is that all of the wet tires look the same.
Okay, so they might be inters, they might not be. We have to see, but either way, it is a compound change. These are impromptu pit stops, so it wouldn't surprise me if Gomez does the same a little bit later on. His teammate Volker has pitted first before he has, but we've got a lot of pit calls on this lap now then, so it's chaos in the pit lane right now here on lap 13 with all the compound changes that are happening, as that is Lorenzo Tomaselli who's just come in as well. Milevski has made his pit stop. Volker finishes his pit stop. 7.2 second pit stop for him there, as Tomaselli is also getting a tyre change done in the car, then putting a bit more fuel into the chat. I'll be a bit curious as to what fuel loads they're carrying after this pit stop as well.
Laps for Tomaselli.
So So he's going to be pitting again, it seems, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's what
25
everybody
for
else around
Wilson.
it. Yeah, so I
they
think that's
are.
what everybody. They're switching to a 2-stop, it seems now. Then, so they've scrapped the 1-stop that they were originally planning. Gomez has stayed out, surprisingly. He's not going in just yet. He feels that the tyres he's on is fine at the moment as he continues to pull away from Zachary Fitzwater, who's now up into second place thanks to Wolf pitting. But Fitzwater is pitting at the end of this lap, as is a few other cars as well. So we're getting a few more pit calls this lap, and well. That's pretty much that. Fitzwater now goes into the pits. He will go. Is La Rosa also going to follow him from behind, or is he going to stay out in the Ferrari? I think he's coming in because I haven't seen him come past. And yeah, he's come in, but a few others have. I think Anderson has stayed out, of course, because his teammate is in. So Penske not willing to double stack their drivers. Thomas Anderson is also into the pit. Parachki, surprisingly, the guy he was battling with, has stayed out on track. So Parachki has stayed out as now Fitzwater makes his pit stop for a compound change. Thomas Anderson and Francesco La Rosa do the same as well for Pyramid Racing and Scuderia Ferrari respectively, as they put on a new set of tyres. It seems that everybody now switching to the 2-stop as more mechanics are making their way out on track out of the pits. As La Rosa having to wait as he got held up there by Fitzwater, who just came out of his box there. Thomas Anderson finishing off his pit stop there in the Pyramid, so he's just finished off his pit stop. His Gomez is going to be coming in very soon, though, because he hasn't pitted just yet as the race leader. Mutka now into the pits for Peugeot. So now he's coming in for that impromptu pit stop. As now... Volker's out! Florian Volker is out of the race. I just went off my screen there, but Volker is out of the race. And this is a reminder. This just reminds me of what happened in 2017 with him, because he crashed on this straight as well. And Florian Volker is out of the race. Was that a mechanical failure, or was that a actual legit crash? I'm not sure, but he's out of the race. And no, that looks like a crash. There's nothing on the dashboard that's caught up on his steering wheel, so Volker is out of the race. I wonder if that's the pit entrance that's done that. Stop is also out of the race. You can just see there, Fosbury's also out as well, judging from the timing scroll. So I wonder if there's been a pile-up, because Volker had a similar accident to this back in 2017, Yuri.
Let's see what goes on here. Okay, there's the debris already. There's a car bouncing on the... Oh, Milewski is going...
He's gone over. Milewski's gone over in the pit lane there. So it looks like
so
the
who
accident...
started it?
It looks like, I think, Fosbury...
Oh, it's Fosbury.
He hit the bump because he was side by side with Cratchitfield going into the pits, and he's hit that massive bump that's at the pit lane. We've seen people drift around there, especially during that end of season test with Dennis Scrap, but he was able to save it. But clearly on this occasion, it's disintegrated. That's what happened to Milewski. He was trying to take avoiding action there, but unfortunately he just went over, and it looks like well, that Meyershank was very lucky there. Martinez, unlike
what is
Milewski
going on?
there, Martinez actually was able to save it, unlike Milewski there. But yeah, so Martinez very lucky he didn't flip, but same can't be said for Dorian Milewski.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
We saw Dennis Graff do a drift through into the pit lane here during the end of season test last season, so I guess that could be added into the collection there of screenshots to take. We obviously had Skillen's crash from DTM this season added to it, and I wonder if Martinez's flying moment there has happened. But both men is out of the race as a result of that.
Yeah, oh, big crash, of course.
Stop was the one that clipped the debris. Same with Florian Volker behind. Did anybody else behind clip the debris? Because we know that Fosbury's out of the race as well. We see Fosbury. I saw at the bottom of the screen that Fosbury was out of the race as well.
Yeah,
so,
he was the first one.
Okay, so that's how Fosbury's out of the race. But it seems that everybody else, I think everybody's avoided this, have they? They might have clipped a tyre or so. So you can see that Tomaselli having to take things very, very slowly to avoid everything that's going on. But chaos down on the pit straight there. As there is Gomez. He's just past the scene of the accident, and I bet he's wondering in his head, what is going on here?
Yeah, he's just driving around and seeing all of the goddamn damages going on there.
Indeed, and that's pretty much that, really.
This has taken
anyway,
the order up quite a bit.
Yes, indeed. Julius Anderson is coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Parachki will get back up to second because, in fact, he hasn't pitted yet as Parachki, so he's going to stay out, of course, as Julius is now into the pits himself. as they make their way through to the corner. Farina, I don't know if he's pitted already. I don't think he has. So, in fact, I think you could tell, in fact, because Anderson, who has pitted, of course, Thomas Anderson, that is all over the back of him on fresher tyres as Farina is coming into the pit. So, yeah, we don't know whether these are inters or whether these are different compounds and normal wets, because Yuri just mentioned that the groove there is the same, both for the inter and the wet tyre. He's got the same groove. Julius Anderson has finished off his pit stop now. Then let's see where the championship leader is going to emerge then. As, well, definitely the order is going to be shaken up after that one, because that was a huge moment there. I'm surprised nobody's reacted to that in the stream chat. Oh, they have. It's just it's now only just updated. But, yeah, as Farina now then making his way into pit lane now then after he decided to stay out, so he's now making his impromptu pit stop now.
This is the GP4 OC.
Pretty much now then. Let's see where he emerges now after his pit stop. He is going to be out of the points though, regardless. Yuri Gabriel now into pits. In fact, Farina having to wait for Gabriel to go by in the pit lane. There he goes, as now Gabriel makes his impromptu pit stop now then. But surprisingly enough, both Gabriel Gomez and Enis Parachki have still not pitted, surprisingly. They have continued to stay out. They still feel comfortable on their tyres, surprisingly enough, unless, of course, like you alluded to, Yuri, they might have been on a different compound all along, because you were speculating, of course, that there may have been two different compounds happening at the start of the race.
Yeah, basing on what happened during the pit stop phase, other than the massive pile-up that went on, I think that other drivers switched to the same tyre that Gomez and Paratsky are on right now.
And just for clarification, we are down to 17 runners now as a result of that pile-up that happened down the pit straight. As we now look at Parachki, who is up into second place, and we believe he is on the correct tyres. He started on those correct tyres, and Parachki now up into second place. Meanwhile, the Andersons are now into combat once again. It's Julius Anderson and Thomas Anderson fighting for what is sixth position now. Then Thomas trying to find a way through on his brother, but he can't get the move done. He just hasn't got the straight line speed compared to what Julius has as they make the way through into the first few turns now. Then through turn 2 and around turn 3 now, then we will go as they make the way through the long swooping left-hander now. Then we go as they make their way onto the back straight now. And there's Thomas Anderson. He's now on the inside of Julius Anderson now. Then on the racetrack down the inside goes Thomas Anderson, and he's got the move done. Thomas up into 6th place, demotes his brother down into 7th place.
Yep, poor race for Julius so far.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, he pitted later than Thomas, if I'm not mistaken. So clearly, Julius clearly struggling on these tyres, as now Gomez is coming up to lap. In fact, he's pitting this lap, in fact, now. Is that a scheduled stop?
That
or
is
is
a
that
scheduled stop since it's
fuel
already at this point. Ignore the fuels because the consumption on the ChampCars is pretty low.
Yeah, well, either way, it's a lot lower than what it would be if it was an impromptu stop. So, yep, this is a scheduled stop then for Gabriel Gomez, and I wonder if Parachki, who's a little bit further behind on the road, is also going to be pitting very, very soon in the McLaren. He hasn't got a pit indicator, but given the gap that Gomez has got to Parachki, you would imagine he's still going to be joined comfortably in the lead once he does his first pit stop.
The gap is half a minute, so yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious there. In fact, despite the fact he's getting held up by the Carlin there of Lorenzo Tomaselli, which he won't get held up for much longer when he peels into the pits. He'll pull to the left-hand side, which he does now. So into the pits then comes the race leader, Gabriel Gomez, as well. He had a bit of a moment there. I think he might have felt a little bit of a twitch, but thankfully no real problems there for Gabriel Gomez. He now makes his way into pit lane for his first pit stop of the day. He didn't come in during that impromptu stage because we think he was on the right tyres anyway, as now Gomez pulls into his box now then, and let's see how quick the stop is going to be then from the Andretti mechanics now then, as they put on a fresh set of tyres and fuel, and I imagine they'll be the same compound as he was on a little bit earlier, because the track has not got drier ever since, as he's still in his box. An 8.9 second stop from the Andretti Autosport mechanics now then, as Gomez goes trundling down pit lane now then. Let's see. Well, he should still emerge in the lead, I would imagine. I'd be a bit surprised if Parachki is still is going to take the lead from him, as he's only just coming onto the pit straight now as Prachki. So yeah, Gomez should still lead the race comfortably out in front, and with the fresher tyres, he should be able to build a gap on Enis Prachki. So yeah, as long as nothing bad happens to Gabriel Gomez in this race, he should be in for quite a dominant performance here today.
I missed the question completely.
I just said a point. Providing nothing happens to him, he shouldn't lose the races. Meanwhile, Fitzwater having to go defensive as La Rosa, who's shown some pretty good pace in that Ferrari today, is now trying to get the other Penske. He's already passed Julius Anderson today, I think, and yes he did. I had to think about that for a moment. And now he wants the other Penske, Zachary Fitzwater, for what will be 4th position. As now La Rosa is on the back here of Zachary Fitzwater, heading down towards turn 4. As Fitzwater having to go defensive. La Rosa, can he break that a little bit later? He thought about it, but had to back out of it last minute. So Fitzwater currently holding on to that place as Thomas Anderson is slowly starting to close on this battle for 4th as well. Thomas Anderson, just before the impromptu pit stops, is once again showing some good pace here in the pyramid, and they're still trying to make up places today in that car as now they make their way into the hairpin. Now then, we will go through the right and left-hander now then. We will soon go as now coming out of the left-hander now then as now coming towards the hairpin we go. 7.5 seconds was the gap that Gomez had when he came out of the pits there in front of Enis Prachki. But now La Rosa once again trying to put Fitzwater under a bit of pressure as Thomas Anderson continues to close on these two now. There's they make their way into Young Cal now then. So now coming around the left-hander up the hill. We will go as now let's see if La Rosa can get Fitzwater this time by. He's also got to be aware that he's also got Thomas Anderson breathing down his neck as La Rosa now then on the inside. He will go now then as they go side by side down towards the first corner. Is La Rosa going to get the place here of Zachary Fitzwater into the first corner? Tries to break later, but again Fitzwater able to hold on to the place, but he's gone a bit deep. La Rosa could get a run on him there, but he's now got Anderson on his gearbox as well, so he's got to be aware that the Thomas is right behind him, and Anderson might get a run here on La Rosa before La Rosa has a chance on Fitzwater. La Rosa able to stay in front because I think he's using the slipstream of Fitzwater to keep in front of the Pyramid Racing car, and Fitzwater now pretty much could be holding up a train of cars very soon if he's not careful, because Julius might actually catch up to the back of this train as well. As they now make their way in towards the double right-hander now then, as they now come out of the turn, as now La Rosa doing all he can to get by as they come out of through the hairpin and then through into the left-hander. We shall go as now La Rosa doing all he can to get through on Zachary Fitzwater and trying to put him under a bit of pressure. He's so far failed to get past him on the last 2 laps now then, as the Australian trying to gap La Rosa as best as he can. La Rosa also having to be aware of Thomas Anderson behind as well. Through Young Cal we go now then, up the hill now then. We shall go heading back onto the pit straight now then. We will go as now La Rosa doing all he can to get by on Zachary Fitzwater's Penske now then. Is he going to get by him this time by? Is he trying to get into the slipstream? He's going to go to the inside line. Is La Rosa going to get the place this time? Off of Zachary Fitzwater. Down the inside he goes. He's trying to have a go, but again, Fitzwater doing enough to hang it around the outside, and La Rosa once again stuck behind the Australian as he'll once again try and get a run on him onto the back straight, but again Fitzwater just has a bit more traction coming out the corner. La Rosa really struggling to get by. Thomas Anderson once again trying to find a way from La Rosa, but can't because La Rosa is in Fitzwater's slipstream as Anderson trying to get through as best he can, but he can't get the move done, and his brother Julius has now caught back up to him as a result of Fitzwater and La Rosa continuously squabbling for 4th place. So we've got a 4-way scrap for 4th place brewing.
Yep, exactly, and I think that's going to be the most interesting part of this race, to be honest. I think the win is already settled. Gomez.
Actually, still hasn't pitted so far. It looks like he's continuing on with that one-stop strategy that he had planned anyway, but it wouldn't have made a difference in Gomez because he still came out in front of him after the pit stop there. In fact, he's pitting now. In fact, he's only just been given a last-minute call to go into the pit. So Prachki is now into the pits now then. So I didn't see an indicator initially, so he's only just come up now, in fact. So Prachki now into the pit for McLaren.
Even though it might be scheduled.
It's a bit bizarre because I didn't see a pit indicator when we were flicking past, but yeah, a little bit bizarre there. But anyway, Prachki now then into his box then for BMW Arrow McLaren SP, and he goes on to another set of tyres. He's going for the two-stop then, so he's gone for quite a short stint. He could come out behind his battles. Now LaRosa once again attacks Fitzwater into the first corner, but can't get the move done. Wolf moves back up to second now as a result. Looks like Julius went a little bit wide there through into turn one whilst trying to catch back up to this train that's in front. As now through the left-hander, we will go now. It's all problems there for Fitzwater. Zachary Fitzwater is out of the race. He just slowed up, coming out of turn 3, and he's out of the race. And, well, that's it for Fitzwater. A chance for him to possibly retake the lead in the championship has gone up down the toilet. Well, down the toilet for him. And Fitzwater becomes the 6th retirement of the race.
Very unfortunate timing in the middle of the battle to get a puncture.
Yeah, indeed, and it's now released both LaRosa and Thomas Anderson, but now because LaRosa's not got any slipstream in front, that's going to make the Italian a bit vulnerable, not only to Thomas, but also Julius as well. It looks like LaRosa has got 2 Andersons potentially breathing down his neck here.
Yeah, double trouble of Andersons, the tacticians.
Yeah, indeed, as now coming around the left-hander we will go as Thomas Anderson. Now that LaRosa's not got any slipstream in front, he is definitely going to be more vulnerable down the straight as they make their way up the hill. Is Anderson going to get the podium place here off of Francesco LaRosa? Thomas Anderson now trying to breathe down the Italian's neck now then. Coming down towards the straight. Can he potentially make it a double podium here for Pyramid Racing as they go down the pit straight? Down the inside goes Thomas Anderson in the Pyramid Racing car now then. Has he got the move done on LaRosa? And yes, he has. Thomas Anderson up into the podium places, and that is P3 for him. Now, can Thomas's brother Julius do the same thing, as he might have a run here on LaRosa because his entrance into turn 2 was compromised there. Can Julius now get LaRosa down there? It looks like he's a little bit too far back, but he's just about got some slipstream here. He's going to look to the inside, but LaRosa is going to shut the door on him there, and LaRosa is going to hold on to 4th position for the time being. But it's now double podium for Pyramid. It's now Delabos Daniel on the back here of Venice Parachki. Surprisingly, Parachki has made his pit stop, but clearly Parachki struggling on this stint, and Daniel takes 6th place from him there. It seems that Parachki might be struggling on this stint here, Yuri.
Yeah, he might have not gotten the tires up to good temperature, and could also be the heavier fuel load, which is well, Daniel has only a few laps less, so maybe these tires aren't suiting him as well as the previous set.
Perhaps indeed, unless they are still on the normal wets, perhaps, and maybe they're on the he may be on a harder compound of it. Who knows, really? But because we can't really tell, really, with the grooves, of course. But anyway, meanwhile, Lucian is now going to attack Parachki if he can now for 7th place. They now go through the left-hander and into the approach to Young Cal now. Then looks like Lucian might actually get slipstream here off of Ennis Parachki. So now make their way up the hill now then as now they come around the left-hander now. Then we will go as Lucian now then tries to look onto the inside of the BMW Our McLaren SP as they now make their way towards turn 1. Looks like Parachki might have a little bit more straight line speed here compared to Alex Eric Lucian. Lucian trying to get later on the brakes, but Parachki is going to stay firm and hold on to what is 7th place at the moment through turn 2 and around turn 3 now. Then we will go. Is Lucian going to try and go for it into turn 4 perhaps as they now come out of the turn, making his way towards turn 4. He's in the slipstream of Parachki. Parachki already going defensive, but Lucian flicks it to the inside. Can he get the move done? No, he can't. Parachki once again staying firm and holding on to 7th place from Alex Eric Lucian, not letting the Frenchman get through that easily there as they come out of turn 5. And, well, that's pretty much that then as they go around the double right-hander now. They're on the racetrack. Up the hill we go. And their battling is allowing Delabos Daniel to pull away as a result of that now then. As they come out of the right and then into the left-hander we will soon go. As we ride on board with Gabriel Gomez now then, as in fact somebody just pointed it out in the stream chat. In fact, it looks like it's starting to cloud over again here at Sao Paulo, so it looks like the bright skies that we had earlier on have seemed to have gone behind the clouds again. So maybe, because of course we did see on the weather forecast that there could be heavy rain on the way, so maybe we could be heading towards heavy rain territory and maybe extreme wet tyre territory very soon. So far there's no rain on the screen, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get any quite soon, of course. That's the thing. As we now look at Thomas Anderson now then in 3rd place. There is his teammate Adam Wolf, who's in 2nd place as he just comes around turn 4 there. Let's have a look at the gap between him and Thomas Anderson now then. 8.4 as previously as the graphic decides to cut away there. And before we've even had a chance to see if Thomas is gaining on his own teammate or not. As Adam Wolf makes his way up the hill now then before making his way into the hairpin now. Then as he flicks it in through the right and the left-hander is now Thomas Anderson now. Then trying all he can to catch up on his own teammate. Looks like Julius Anderson is starting to fall back again to Francesco La Rosa, so clearly not having the pace to keep up with the Ferrari at the moment. As Lucian, in fact, unseen by the cameras, has finally got by on Enis Parachki. So Lucian is now up into 7th place, passing the McLaren driver. So he's now up into 7th place. As now coming around the left-hander, we will go as we ride back on board with Adam Wolf's Pyramid Racing cars. We're at the halfway stage now of the race. We're on lap 25 of 50 now. Then here at Interlagos, as Wolf continuing to lose time to the race leader Gabriel Gomez at the front, as now through turns 1, 2 and 3 we will now go. As here is Gomez. He's actually coming up to some traffic now then, so he's actually putting a lap there on Luke Mason's Viper car as he continues to dominate out in front at the moment. The Brazilian fans definitely cheering him on every lap he goes by. As now through the right and left-hander we go. We ride on board with Thomas Anderson. What's the gap between him and Adam Wolf, I wonder, as the graphics were being very rude to not tell us that, as he continues to pull away from Francesca La Rosa. As now coming out of turn 5 now, then trying all he can. You could just see at the top right there, you just saw the spray looming from the back of Adam Wolf's car. That's how far he is to Thomas Anderson at the moment. As now heading into the hairpin, we will go now then, as the Swedish driver doing all he can to gain on this man, as now there's rain appearing on the screen once again. So obviously I mentioned that the clouds were starting to loom over again, but it looks like the rain has started to come back. So maybe, Yuri, we could be looking at extreme tyres a little bit soon, as Parachki has a moment through into there. But yeah, maybe pretty soon in the future we could see the extreme wets coming out.
There's a chance for it, but I don't see it yet.
We shall see, of course. Of course, we know that all the drivers out on track are going to have to make another pit stop in this race. They've opted to change their strategy from a 1-stop to a 2-stop. So that's pretty much that. As Anderson doing all he can to catch up to teammate Wolf in front, as we haven't seen what the gap is like yet between those two. Wolf now actually coming up to some traffic. He's just like the Meyershank there of, I believe, that's Yuri Gabriel. He's just overtaken there. And in fact, Anderson is gaining, because the last time we checked, it was roughly about 7 seconds. Well, now Thomas has actually cut it down to 6.9. And I think looking at that, he's actually got it down to 7 seconds exact. In fact, has he? Well, in fact, it might still be roughly around 6.9. So he is gaining onto Wolf, but he's clearly still got a lot to go if he wants to get onto the back of his own teammate before we get onto the second stages of pit stops in this race now. And then as Gomez makes his way up the hill before he approaches the final couple of corners now then, as he rounds the penultimate turn. Now into the final corner he goes, as he'll start lap 27 of 50 now then here at Interlagos. As we look now at Thomas Anderson, who again is trying all he can to close on teammate Adam Wolf in front. Of course, he'll have to lap some traffic before he gets onto the back of his own teammate, as now goes around young Cal now then, as he comes up the hill now then. There's 4.7 seconds is the gap now then between himself and La Rosa. 6.1 the gap between him and Wolf meanwhile, so he's continuing to close that gap on his own teammate. And let's see what it's going to be like this time by, except we won't. Well, Wolf has gained a bit onto Gomez, but I think that's only because the Brazilian is having to negotiate some traffic here, as he's trying to lap Farina, and I think the other car is actually stopping. No, Stop's already out of the race. What am I talking about? It would be, well, he's already lapped Luke Mason, so it should be Yuri Kratichville. It should be the Viper in front. And so negotiating around the left-hander, as he'll try and lap these guys as quick as possible. He's got plenty of time anyway, because he's got a big gap to this guy right here, Adam Wolf. As now coming around the double right-hander, he'll go. As now we come towards the section of corners. Now through the right and left-hander, 6 seconds the gap, as Gomez goes for a little bit of a late lunge there to pull a lap there on Luca Farina's Chip Ganassi. But it looks like he's going to get the move done, and through he goes now then as a result. And now entering down straight we will go, as now Gomez starts lap 28 of the race. Let's see the gap between Wolf and Anderson. Meanwhile, it was 6 seconds. Has Anderson cut it down a bit more? He has to 5.1. He took 9 tenths out of Wolf that time by, although Anderson is now having to lap Yuri Gabriel now as they make their way up the hill. So now then, coming around that corner, I think he will probably lose a little bit of time whilst he's lapping Yuri Gabriel there as a result, as he now comes down the pit straight, doing all he can to catch up on his own teammate now then, as they make their way through the first corner. As Wolf continued to game on to Gomez, but of course it's only because he just lapped the traffic that was in front of him. I do expect Gomez to open up the gap again once he's in a bit of clear air. So now through turn 3 we go, as now we will try and see what the gap is like between him and Wolf pretty soon now. Then I think that was just Wolf there in the distance. I just saw they're coming out of turn 4. So now Gomez again stuck in traffic, this time with Yuri Kratichville, and it looks like he's going to try and do it around the outside into this hairpin here, which he will do. So he goes through there as a result. So now through the flat out, or near flat out left-hander we will go, as now Thomas Anderson just making his way into the hairpin now then. As now coming around the left-hander, as now we look at Parachki, who I think might be having a bit of a moment here. He just had a bit of a moment going through into turn 4 there. Looks like a little bit of aquaplaning, but yeah, this strategy has not really worked out for Parachki, because he was up in second place when everybody was pitting, but now when he had to make his pit stop, he's now dropped down into 8th position really, and yeah, not really ideal for the BMW Arrow McLaren SP, as he'll try his best to try and gain back up to the best of the pack as best as possible. But anyway, as Wolf now then, I'm curious to see what the gap is like between him and his teammate Thomas Anderson. 4.8 last time by. What is it now as Anderson crosses the line? Still 4.8 at the moment. So Anderson didn't really gain anything in that sector there. So in fact, Wolf pulled a little bit away in sector 3. But I wonder if Thomas will actually gain it back a bit now. Then when they approach the end of sector 2. And there is Thomas Anderson. In fact, you can just see that's the distance he's got to his own teammate in front now then, as the gap is still roughly around 4.8 seconds. So I wonder if Anderson is struggling to catch up now at this point, unless he the only place he can really gain maybe is the middle sector, because we did see before he got up to the back of that traffic with Yuri Kratichville, he gained 9 tenths on his teammate. So we'll see if that's still going to be a similar case whilst he's negotiating this middle sector here at Interlagos. So around the left-hander now then we will go. There is Wolf again in the other Pyramid racing car. Both currently on a podium at the moment, are the 2 Pyramid drivers. As now coming around that left-hander goes Adam Wolf. As meanwhile, La Rosa is now having to negotiate that traffic that the 2 Pyramids had to go around earlier. As Gomez starts lap 30 of the race now in the 50. As now they come around the flat-out left-hander. Looks like, I don't know if that's the onboard camera that's doing that or not, but it looks like the rain may have eased again. I'm not sure.
It's still raining on the screen.
Yeah, but looks like it's got a little bit lighter though from the last time we saw. Anyway, what's the gap now then between Wolf and Anderson? Because it was 4.2 seconds as the camera rudely cuts away there, as Farina still stopped behind Yuri Kratichville in their fight for what is 12th position at the moment. Both powered, of course, by the Mercedes engine in the back of their car. So similar speeds that they should be producing on the straight. It should really be down to how they've set up the car down the straight with their wings, etc. So anyway, here is Thomas Anderson again doing all he can to catch up on his own teammate. And let's see when the graphic on the bottom turns around what it's like this time by between him and Adam Wolf. And in fact, it won't tell us. It's just telling us how many pit stops they've done in this race now then. So we're still expecting a second pit stop to happen at this point in time, as now Anderson now then just coming on the right hand. In fact, it's a little bit heavier in that part of the track. So it seems it's different parts of the track. There just seem to be different volumes of rain that are being thrown onto the track, really. As now coming out of the hairpin goes Adam Wolf, as the spray continues to kick out the back of his car. As what is, in fact, he won't tell us the gap because the auto camera is being very rude to us today. As now Farina now looking to the inside now then of Yuri Kratichville. Can he finally get the move done? And finally, after being stuck behind the Viper for very long, he gets up into 12th position. As we look back now at Adam Wolf, there's his teammate just coming into shot there. So 3.5 was the gap when they last crossed that sector. So Anderson continuing to gain. What's it now? It's still 3.5, sorry. So that suggests to me, Yuri, that Thomas is mainly gaining in that middle sector and not able to gain through sectors 1 and 3.
Yeah, so he has more downforce on the car, but it's not enough to get the gap totally down.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have to really dig deep, and he might have to come down to the second round of pit stops if Anderson is not able to catch up to him in time and able to pass him on the track. So it might have to come down to the pit stops. As a result, as now Thomas Anderson making his way through the double right-hander now then, as he'll try to catch back up to Adam Wolf as best as possible through the right and then into the left-hander. We will go as in fact they're still gaining on to Gomez. Is Gomez come up to some more traffic because it's now down to 19.8 seconds now between Gomez and Wolf. Has Gomez run into a little bit more traffic? I wonder. I'm not sure because well they've now got it to under 20 seconds now. Has Adam Wolf. In fact, you could argue both pyramids because Thomas has been gaining onto Wolf. Let's see what it's like now in this sector. He's gained a second on him in that sector. So, yeah, it's the middle sector, really, where Anderson is gaining the most. As it's now down to 2.4 seconds now between the two pyramid racing drivers. So, that's that. Here is Gomez, and it doesn't look like there's any traffic around. So, I wonder if, in fact, he was 2 seconds off his personal best. In that, well, in fact, that's because he set. Well, in fact, I don't know really, but now he's got it back up to 20 seconds now. Then, so there wasn't any traffic around, so that's a little bit bizarre, really. That he lost a little bit of time there.
He's simply just not as fast on this stint than on the first one.
Yeah, but clearly it's not mattering because he had enough of a gap anyway to afford a little bit of an ease up. And so now we come around these section of corners. And now we see that they're actually now having to come up to some traffic, so that might actually help Thomas Anderson now then try and get a hold of Adam Wolf. They're actually coming up to try and lap Rosetta Martinez in front, as now through the right-hander we go. Of course, Martinez, earlier on in the race, very, very lucky, of course, that he didn't roll over like Dorian Malevsky did a little bit earlier on, where coming into the pit. So Martinez, you could say, very lucky to still be in this race, as it looks like Wolf is trying to lap him around the outside here into that hairpin, and there he is. You can just see his car just pop into shot there, and he gets through pretty easily, but I think that would have cost him a bit more time to Thomas Anderson as a result, who now has to also lap Rosetta Martinez as well as they come up the hill. But yeah, as Thomas Anderson now then just getting some slipstream on Martinez, so to see if he can get some more speed on his teammate down the straight, which he will do as he now puts a lap on him. But now you can see that the gap between the two pyramid drivers has definitely got a lot closer at this stage as they now make their way through into the first few turns. 1.2 seconds now the gap between Wolf and Thomas Anderson now then. So through turns 2 and 3 we will go as Wolf now then doing all he can to possibly try and see if he can keep back his teammate in this race. But it seems that, as Yuri mentioned earlier, he might have a little bit of a straight line speed advantage, except on this occasion, Thomas has now got it to under a second between himself and his teammate Wolf. So now under a second covers them 9 tenths as Lucian comes into the pits meanwhile for his second pit stop. So I think we're now at the second round of pit stop. In fact, he's coming a bit early, 10.9 seconds. I wonder if that has something to do with the rain or what.
Tire changes.
Yeah, it seems so. It seems that they're changing again, as it seems that, in fact, the grooves... Did the grooves just slightly change, though? Was that my eyes that was deceiving me a bit there? Let's see with Tomaselli, because they looked a little bit wider, those grooves are. Because if that's the case, then that confirms to me that we do have a groove difference for the monsoon tyres. So let's see with Tomaselli there, because I'm a little bit curious as to if my eyes were playing tricks with me there or not. There are a few more mechanics coming out of the pit lane as we speak. So let's see now then as Tomaselli pulls into his box. Keep an eye on the grooves, and yeah, they're wider. So they're the I think they're the monsoon tyres, if I'm not mistaken, Yuri. They've got wider grooves on them. You can see there, look. I can just see a subtle difference. You can see, look, they're a lot wider, as you can see, compared to a normal wet tyre that Farina's got, or maybe an Inter. So, yeah, I think we're on the extreme wet tyres here, Yuri.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't think the track looks that much more wet.
Oh, either way, Thomas Anderson, I think, did that just say he was just coming into the pits there, the Thomas Anderson there?
Yeah,
on
the tyres do change, though. Yeah,
they do change. They are different compounds. So this is a compound change. And I think I saw that Thomas Anderson's name had a pit indicator as well, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Thomas Anderson has come into the pits. He's not been able to pass Wolf on track, so he's going to try and do it on strategy here. And it looks like we're into another impromptu stage of pit stops here for monsoon tyres. So, or extreme tyres, as we like to call them here in this series. But Anderson's having to wait because there's another car coming in. Oh, it's a Ferrari! And that's not ideal for Anderson. La Rosa came in at the same time. And, well, Thomas is not going to be happy about that one. And any chance he had of possibly jumping Wolf in the pits might have just gone down the toilet as a result. As
rare to see two cars hitting each other in the pit lane.
Luckily, though, no major damage, but that will definitely cost Thomas any chance of possibly jumping Wolf in the pits. As the Meyer Shanks have made a bit of an error. As in fact, no, they might have not done. In fact, it might have just been a bit of luck there, as Gabriel may have come into the pits right at the right time, because Martinez has also just finished off his pit stop. And yeah, that was very lucky there for the second Brazilian that's on the grid, Yuri Gabriel. Gomez is opting to stay out. In fact, because I'm looking at his grooves, look at his grooves. It looks like he's already switched on to them by the time. So when he made his previous pit stop, he'd already switched on to them, Yuri.
Well, that's in terms of tactics, that's very good then. He doesn't need to. Well,
he does have to
he
pit
does
again,
need
of
to
course.
pit, but not yet.
Yeah. But not for an impromptu tyre change. That's important. Soper now in for an impromptu tyre change. I wonder if Wolf is going to do the same thing as well in the pyramid. So once again, Gomez doing a very, very good strategy there by changing compound. As now we wait to see what that looks like. As you can now see, that's the monsoon, of course, for... this is for right number. This is obviously... number 15, that's Frederick Soper, who's just finished his pit stop there, and 19 laps. So they're all going to the end of the race there. Wolf now in for his impromptu tyre change, and yeah, he's going to the end of the race. So I think everybody who's just pitted now have all been fueled to the end of the race, which shouldn't bother Gomez too much, because it just means he'll have a bigger gap to Wolf anyway before he makes his final pit stop, and he should still come out in the lead as Mason does his pit stop. But does he have to wait for Wolf? No, he doesn't. And in fact, Anderson's coming down the straight now then as Delibas Daniel comes in. Is he going to jump Wolf here? Wolf, I think is going to actually just stay ahead of Anderson. But what will be? How close will it be at the exit as they now come around turn 2 and 3? And where is Wolf now then? He's just coming out of pit lane. He's just coming around that left-hander. I think he is still going to emerge still in front of Thomas Anderson, which he will do. And, well, in fact, he's just there. So, really, yeah, in fact, Thomas Anderson now going to try and look to the inside. He's not wasting any time, but he can't get the move done. Wolf holds on. And, well, Yuri, if it wasn't for that hold-up with La Rosa, Thomas would have jumped him.
Yeah, the advantage from the first tires was really strong, and without the little incident in the pit lane, he definitely would have been ahead.
Indeed, as mentioned, Delibas Daniel is now into the pits, but now he's going to have to do it all over again. But they're having to negotiate traffic here because both of them having to pull a lap here on the Viper of Luke Mason. As now coming towards the hairpin now, then we go. As Anderson will try and get back on the prowl of Adam Wolf as best as he can, because he hasn't been able to get the jump thanks to Francesco La Rosa being in his way in the pit lane there. So now coming around Young Cal now, then we go. As they make their way up the hill now, as we've just passed the 5 o'clock mark for anybody wondering. As now coming around that left-hander, you can see, of course, Gomez still needs to pit, but you can tell with that gap he's still going to emerge in front of Wolf when he does make his second and final stop of the day. Has the rain just disappeared on the onboard camera again, or not? Because I don't see anything on the,
no, it's
on the
still
screen.
There. It's still there.
It's still there. Okay, fair enough. As Anderson was not close enough there on Wolf, but he looks like he's got through the corner the first few turns a lot better than Wolf has. But is he close enough to possibly get P2 off his own teammate here? Coming out of turn 3, as he might be just a little bit too far back to challenge now then. As they make their way down towards turns 4 and 5 now. Then as meanwhile, La Rosa is on the back of that is Enis Parachki, who I think has also stayed on track. I wonder if, like Gomez, he was also on those wet tyres as we're trying to look. Yeah, he also did the same thing as Gomez. So that might explain, in fact, why Parachki was going backwards when he made his pit stop, because he was on the extremes. Now Gomez is into the pits. Gabriel Gomez, the race leader, is into the pits for his second and final pit stop of the day, as La Rosa has got by on Parachki for 4th place. But Gabriel Gomez, the race leader, is into the pits midst of the two pyramids, continue to scrap it out for what is second place as Thomas Anderson is back on the prowl here of Adam Wolf as to come around the hairpin now then is Anderson taking a bit more of an inside line there than what Wolf did coming out of the hairpin there. Down the hill we go as the weather continues to pick up as Gomez will just have a very easy time in the pit lane. Through Young Cal now then we will go as up the hill goes to the two pyramids. Is second place going to go to Thomas Anderson here as they make their way out the corner? He's got better traction compared to Adam Wolf now then as he goes into the slipstream. He's going to look to the inside line now then. Has he got the move done on his own teammate as he's trying his best, maybe trying to go late on the brakes if he can now then, as I think Gomez has just finished the pit stop. In fact, he has, and he's still in the lead by a very big margin, 48 seconds to be exact. Although I think it'll be a bit lower when they come out of Sector 1. Wolf still holding on to the place, but his entrance into Turn 2 there has been compromised. Through into Turn 3 goes Thomas Anderson. Is this going to be the move this time for Thomas Anderson? Is there going to be a switch from the two pyramids? Clearly no team orders at this team. Anderson looking to the inside of his own teammate, but again Wolf chops him across there and he holds on to second place. Wolf is not giving up this second place without a fight. He doesn't care if it's his own teammate, and as mentioned, Yuri, clearly no team orders at Pyramid Racing.
Yeah, of course.
Out through the double right-hander now then we will go as Spray continues to go right into Thomas Anderson's face now then as they make their way through the right and left-hander. 29.1 now is the gap now that Gomez has finished his pit stop there as Thomas Anderson still puts his teammate under a bit of pressure now then as they make their way through the right-hander. I do wonder if Prachki has to make another pit stop because we saw that Gomez made a pit stop and Prachki might have to pit again as well unless he's going to the end of the race. I'm not sure. We didn't quite check his fuel load really. But anyway, now through into Young Cal now then we will go as they make their way up the hill now then. 2/10 the gap. Is he going to get him this time by? Again, much better traction like last lap on Wolf going out of Young Cal. Once again, already flicking to the inside line. Is Anderson going to get Wolf this time by? Heading into the first corner to go side by side. Down towards the first corner. Thomas gets later on the brakes. Can he get the move done? No, he can't. Wolf again holding on to the place, but once again his entrance into Turn 2 is going to get compromised. And can Anderson pounce on him down towards Turn 4 now? They're coming out of Turn 3. Now heading on to this little back straight now then. As meanwhile, Julius Anderson has now passed Parechki for 5th position, but I'm looking at this battle for 2nd place, and again Wolf covers the inside off there on Thomas, and once again he holds on to that 2nd place, and Thomas really struggling to get by his teammate at this point in the race. So now coming around the double right-hander. No, you haven't, Ennis, because you're already on the tyres. So that's that. I don't know if you're going to the end of the race or not, Ennis. That's the thing. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that one. But anyway, now coming around the left-hander now, then we will go as they now make their way towards the hairpin now then on the racetrack. 30.5 seconds now Gomez has got on Adam Wolf as now they come out of that hairpin now then. And I wonder if the other Anderson might close up on La Rosa just behind these two. Let's see if Thomas is once again going to get good traction out of Young Cal like last time by. Coming out of the turn as he tries to get onto the back of Wolf. It looks like again he's got a good run on his own teammate. He was close to getting him last time by, but Wolf just had enough to stay in front as Thomas Anderson once again peeling to the inside of Adam Wolf. Can he get 2nd place this time by off his own teammate? Can he break that a little bit later than Adam Wolf going into the first corner? He's trying his best. Tries to break later into the first corner. Has he got him this time by? No, again. Wolf holds on to 2nd place and Thomas not able to hang it around the outside through to Turn 2 like we've seen in a few other series around here at Interlagos. Out of Turn 3 we go. Is Anderson going to get him this time by? Now they tries to get in the slipstream of his own teammate. Wolf goes defensive. Thomas though tries to fake it to the inside, but once again Wolf covers the inside off and Thomas is really struggling to find a way through on Wolf, and I wonder if he's possibly getting a little bit frustrated.
It's a fair teammate with teammate fight. I don't think anybody's getting mad at this.
Yeah, but I bet the team on the pit wall are probably getting a little bit nervous because if one of them makes a mistake, it could take both of them out of the race when there's a chance of a double podium. You can just see just in the background there, Francesco La Rosa, not too far away. Is he actually getting onto these two or not? I'm not sure. But anyway, it's now coming into the hairpin now then as we've got 11 laps to go, including this one for Gabriel Gomez. He's just started lap 40 of 50 here at Interlagos. Now through into the left-hander. Thomas Anderson once again trying to put Wolf under under a bit of pressure now then. 4.5 the gap between Anderson and LaRose last time by, and I think it's shrunk a little bit because it's now cut to the gap between Wolf and Thomas Anderson as Julius puts a lap there on Luke Mason, I think that was. But anyway, and once again, Thomas Anderson attacks Adam Wolf down the pit straight. Can he get him this time by? I think he's a little bit further alongside his teammate than he was previously. Can he get later on the brakes? Is this going to be P2 this time by? Down the inside? No again. Wolf holds on to the place and doing everything he can to hold on to that second place now then. Through turn 3 we will go. Thomas doing all he can to get by on his own teammate as he make the way down the back straight. Thomas already flicking it to the inside. He's not waiting around. Doesn't give Wolf the chance to defend. Can he brake later? Down his own teammate down the inside, and finally he gets the move done. Thomas Anderson finally up into second place, and now he can finally break away from his own teammate. It took a lot longer than anticipated, but he's finally up into second place. A great comeback from 11th on the grid.
Yeah, he's done really well gaining all those places in this race, and very solid performance.
Yes, indeed, as Gomez will start lap 41, so we'll have 10 laps to go when he crosses the line. So he's in fact just trying to negotiate traffic out in front. We've barely seen Gabriel Gomez today because he's been that dominant out in front. Clearly, the home support is definitely giving him a bit of an edge, although Tomaselli's making his life a little bit difficult as he's trying to lap him, and this could allow Mutka to actually take full advantage of this as he's going to try and get Tomaselli here. That might have been a bad call there from Lorenzo Tomaselli because Simon Mutka is trying to get through, but Lorenzo Tomaselli is using Gomez's slipstream to stay in front. So in the end, it actually worked out pretty well for Tomaselli in the end, as it looks like, in fact, I'm just looking on the timing tower, looks like Rosa is actually gaining onto Wolf because it's now 3.8 seconds, I think, between those two. So I think Wolf might have somebody else to deal with very soon if he's not careful, as Thomas tries to put a lap on Yuri Kratichville in front. But yeah, La Rosa could actually, if he's got the pace, might actually be on course to try and get a second consecutive podium. But we shall wait and see, of course. Let's see what the gap is like this time by, as Thomas has now actually lapped Yuri Kratichville, and Wolf will actually have to lap, because Ennis Perachki did have to pit in the end, so he didn't have enough fuel to get to the end. So I wonder if this is actually going to put Perachki out of the... In fact, I think it won't do, because Tomaselli got lapped by Gabriel Gomez, so I think he might actually be okay, unless Gomez is actually going to come and lap Perachki here. We shall see. It's 6.4 second stop. So, in fact, I'm just looking on the pit straight. I think he should be okay. So, yeah, Perachki will still rejoin comfortably in 8th position. So, no real issues there for the Macedonian driver, although I do think, knowing him, he'd want a little bit more after what happened with his teammate Patacek earlier on in the race, who, of course, retired thanks to an oil leak. So, yeah, he rejoins in 8th, no real problems there. But yeah, I think he was possibly hoping for a little bit more today, it's fair to say. Same for McLaren as a whole, really, after the encouraging qualifying that they had for today. We look now at the race leader, Gabriel Gomez, who's just continuing to dominate out in front. 33 seconds he's got to Thomas Anderson right behind. And, of course, Thomas Anderson... it's fair to say, not the best of memories here at Sao Paulo, because he missed out on the GP2 title here back in 2019, and oddly enough, he actually disappeared for a bit after 2019, but has, of course, made his return to the OC fraternity in this series in 2022, and so far, despite the fact he's not had the luck, it's safe to say, it's definitely shown that he's lost none of his speed that he had when he was in GP2 and all the other series that he was in. So definitely showing he's got some good speed. Is he better than his brother though? I'd say not, in my opinion. I think Julius is slightly better than him in terms of talent, but I think he's quite similar to him. That's for sure. It's not like it's not like with the Schumacher brothers in real life where there was a notable gap. So yeah, that's kind of that really. But as La Rosa puts the lap on Kratichville, and I wonder if he's actually. Lost a little bit of time to who's he trying to gain? Adam Wolf there as a result, so he might have lost a little bit whilst they were trying to lap him there. 8 laps to go for Gabriel Gomez as he started lap 43 of 50 here, as meanwhile Mutka is now on the inside of Lorenzo Tomaselli, and after being stuck behind him for a while, he finally gets the move done, and Mutka is up into 9th position as a result. And I think, yeah, it's a double points position at the moment for Peugeot, because Lucien is currently up in a very good 6th position at the moment. So Peugeot, once again, having a very good start to the season, being a very solid midfield team this season, it's fair to say, and kind of taking the mantle as what Carlin did last season, but clearly doing a little bit better. As we look now at Adam Wolf, and just so far in third position, but I do wonder if La Rosa is continuing to gain onto him at the moment, so maybe the double podium for the Pyramid Racing drivers might be under a little bit of doubt, but we shall wait and see. Hopefully it shows the gaps when the timing tower on the bottom of your screen comes back onto view, and it's 3.3 seconds, so La Rosa is still gaining, but not by a lot, I would say, unless the traffic that he had to deal with from, I think it was Yuri Kratichville, might have impeded him a little bit there, but we shall see. As now we look at Gomez, who's just coming around Young Cal now then. Just coming out of the turn as he'll start lap 44 of the race very, very soon. As we look at Wolf now then. In fact, he's just put a lap there on, I think that was Luca Farina. As you can just see, there's La Rosa there just behind him there. As La Rosa tries to catch that gap down because he can sense that another podium could be on the cards for Ferrari today. As we look at Rosetta Martinez, who just had a bit of a moment there through into turn 6, but luckily didn't go straight on there. And, well, you could argue it was a little bit similar to Thomas Anderson's mistake. It is. We've got a yellow flag, in fact. We've got a yellow down at that part of the track that Martinez are just coming up to now. And it's Kratichville. Kratichville is out of the race. And it looks like, well, it's a little bit hard to tell, but we'll see on the graphic in a little bit. But it is a mechanical failure, I think, not a crash for Yuri Kratichville that has taken care of the Czech driver. And he is going to be out of the race. And we will be down to 15 runners as a result of that. And it is a puncher. So the same reason as why... who was it that retired from a puncher earlier on? I can't remember. There was another guy that retired. It was Fitzwater. Oh, no, I think he had the...
no, he had oil leak. Fitzwater had...
it was Fitzwater, yeah. Fitzwater was the other one that had the puncher. So we've had 2 punches today, despite the fact that it's a wet condition. So clearly the tyres, even though we're in wet conditions, clearly still abrasive around here, it's fair to say. But, yeah, I'm just checking something out with Kratichville, in fact. No, it's not him. It's another driver, I think, that's of this thing. But never mind. Anyway, it's his second retirement of the season, in fact. I think maybe third if you count the second race, because he was actually only classified on a technicality because he completed 90% of the race distance. So he's only seen the checkered flag once this season as Yuri Kratichville. He's been having a load of mechanical issues this season as Kratichville, and, well... So far, it's not really been his the debut season that he was hoping, really. But, yeah, that's pretty much that. There is La Rosa, you can just see right behind Wolf. Is he gaining enough, though, to possibly challenge him towards the end of the race, I wonder? As Anderson has now got up the gap to 3.9 seconds now between the pair of them. As now they're coming around these final couple of corners. And... So now we come down the straight as Anderson continues to possibly settle into a bit of a rhythm, as he's not going to be able to gain Gomez. I think the only time he could possibly win this race is if something bad happens to Gabriel Gomez, but he's got to literally pray to every person he can think of to make that happen. But it looks like Gomez is in full control around here, and the Brazilian fans are absolutely loving it, as now Gomez makes his way into the hairpin now then. As meanwhile, Daniel just putting a lap there on Rosetta Martinez as we look at La Rosa, who has a bit of a moment through into turn 4, clearly pushing hard to catch up to Wolf, but I think that might affect him as a result of that. I'm just going to quickly double check what this would do for Gomez in the championship, because obviously we've got Julius, who's down in 5th position in this race, and I think Anderson will still lead the championship, but I'm just going to double check what this will do for Gomez as far as he's concerned. In fact, who actually has the fastest lap of the race? I'm just curious there. I think, does Gomez have the fastest lap, or does somebody else have it? It might be Gomez still, if I'm not mistaken. I think Gomez has still got the fastest lap, hasn't he, if I'm not mistaken, or is it somebody else that's got it? Not 100% sure, really, who's got the fastest lap of the race, if I'm being totally honest, but... yeah, I'm just trying to look on the championship standings at the moment, what this would do for Gomez. And, well, it would actually lift him above Zachary Fitzwater in the championship. I think, just looking at Wolf, who's currently in, I think at the moment, Gomez might actually move up to 2nd in the championship, thanks to his victory today. So he would actually become Anderson's new, Julius Anderson's, I should say, new nearest contender in the championship. As a result, as I think that was 2.9 seconds between Wolf and La Rosa, so I generally think, Yuri, looking at that pace, I don't think La Rosa's going to get Wolf, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, no, he's not going to get him.
Yeah, I think Wolf might be okay. I wouldn't back off just to make sure, though. But I think he's got third in the bag unless something dramatically happens to him in these 4 and a bit laps, which Gomez is actually going to start a lap 47 very soon, and we'll have 4 laps to go in this race here at Interlagos as he just makes his way through into the final couple of corners. As just looking around, there is Wolf, in fact, as the gap is now actually just under 3 seconds. So, in fact, it looks like Wolf might have actually responded a little bit to La Rosa through into the first sector there, as Lucian puts a lap there on Luke Mason's Viper. So, now coming around the double right-hander, we will soon be approaching, as now 4 laps to go now then. As Gomez has just started lap 47 of the race, it looks like he's just in full control. As we look at all the drivers who have made places on the line, no double figures, as you can see. Only Thomas Anderson seems to have gained the most in the top 10, gaining 9 places from his original grid spot. He obviously qualified in 11th place, and he's already gone up into 2nd place. 6 places gained for La Rosa, 5 places gained for Tomaselli, 4 places for Mutka, 1 place lost for Paratsky. Julius has actually stayed where he is, 2 for Lucian, 2 for Daniel, 1 for Gomez, and 1 for Wolf. And of course, the pole sitter Volker is not on the screen, of course, because he obviously retired thanks to a crash that happened down the pit straight in similar circumstances to what we saw him involved with in 2017, which of course handed Mercedes the Constructors' Championship that season thanks to that crash. Now we look at Thomas Anderson, who's just looking very comfortable in 2nd place and looking to get, I think this will be, if I'm not mistaken, his first podium of the season. I don't think he's had a podium yet in 2022, if I just quickly check the statistics at the moment. And just looking at Thomas Anderson, and no, he hasn't had a podium yet this season. He's been very unlucky. He arguably should already have one, of course, because of course he was scheduled to look like he was going to win at Indianapolis, but of course he had that mechanical failure which prevented him from doing that. And well, paid any chance of him getting off to a winning start in 2022. And so far, it's been his brother who's so far been picking up the races. But it looks like, unless something dramatic happens in these remaining few laps of the top 4, it looks like the streak that Penske have had in the early part of this season is going to come to an end, thanks to Andretti's Gabriel Gomez, who is definitely determined to try and win the championship. Of course, there is a lot of rumours about whether or not it's foul. The fault is Martinez. Martinez is out of the race, and that is another mechanical failure. And I think he'll be classified anyway, because I think he has done 90% of the race distance. But we will double check on that, of course, when we get to the results screen. But Rosetta Martinez is out of the race, and it is another mechanical failure that's taken care. So we will be down to 14 runners as a result of this, as my headphones are deciding to nearly die on me just as this happened. It's a loose wheel this time that's taken care of Martinez. So not a puncher, but a different sort of wheel issue for Martinez on that occasion. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Of course, as mentioned with Gomez, of course, there is a lot of speculation as to whether or not he could be Emilia Wilson's replacement in the remaining few races, because he is, of course, the Alfa Romeo reserve driver. But, of course, he has said in the past that he is committed to World ChampCar, so that has left a little bit of a question mark as to whether or not Gomez would actually accept the role if it does get presented to him. As he now, speaking of which, starts the penultimate lap of the race here at Interlagos, as he now makes his way through to the final few corners now then, as we now look at Thomas Anderson, as he's looking like he's going to get 2nd place unless something happens. 2.2 seconds is the gap between Wolf and La Rosa meanwhile, but as mentioned, it looks like La Rosa is not going to gain a hold of him in this race, and it looks like the 2nd consecutive podium is just possibly not going to happen for the Italian today. As now they go flat through the left-hander, and now into Young Cow goes Luca Farina, as I think he's being lapped here, I think, because he's taken a wider line through into there. Yeah, it's Julius Anderson who's trying to lap him, in fact, going up the hill. Possibly a race to forget, really, for the championship leader, but I think he can take some comfort knowing that he will still lead the championship after this race, given that Zachary Fitzwater retired from this race today. And, of course, the fact that his nearest rival will actually be Gabriel Gomez after this race instead of Zachary Fitzwater. So, That's pretty much that as they come around the double right-hander, as La Rosa is now under 2 seconds behind Adam Wolf. He's now got it down to 1.9 seconds, but again, it's not going to be enough, I think. It's going to be a bit too late for the Italian to get a podium. He needs so fab as well.
No.
That's a crash for Muka. Muka is crashed. He's aquaplaned off, and a points play. He was in the points as well, and Muka has bottled a points playing position here, thanks to him aquaplaning into the hairpin there.
That looked... What happened there? Did he hit the pink car, or did he just... He locks up and goes into the wall, completely unforced.
Yeah, that was all on Mutka there. That was an aquaplane there. That has allowed Tomaselli to get up into ninth. So who's actually going to get the final points place now with Mutka crashing out? I think it was actually in 11th at the time when he was there. So he's going to go up into ninth. It's going to be Soper that's going to get the final points place off of his former teammate here. So a little bit of a lucky present there for Soper, I guess. He's going to get into that final point place. So maybe double points, or it looks like it's going to be a double points place here for Carlin as a result of that error from Mutka, the ex-Carlin driver. But anyway, Gabriel Gomez is now on the final lap of the race. And what can be said about him, Yuri? Just a totally dominant performance from the Brazilian here today.
Yeah, probably his best performance he's given in the GP4 OC as a whole so far. Nobody could touch him today.
Indeed, and he's going to end Penske's streak as a result, get his first win of the season, and as a result, it will put him right into the title fight as a result, because he will move up to second in the Drivers' Championship as a result of this, and the Brazilian fans are definitely going to be happy about this one, because their home hero is going to get a victory here at the first ever World ChampCar race in Brazil. And Gabriel Gomez, well, it's just been a totally dominant performance. Took the lead from the start of the race, and he never looked back, even in changeable conditions. He has just been untouchable today at his home race as Gabriel Gomez goes up the hill for the 50th and final time. And after what has been a dominant performance, he rounds the final couple of the corners. He just has one more little corner to negotiate. And after a dominating drive, it is going to be Gabriel Gomez who wins here at Interlagos. And he wins his home race as well. And the Brazilian fans are going to go absolutely nuts. Gabriel Gomez wins here at Sao Paulo. What a drive and what a dominant performance from the Andretti driver.
Yeah, absolutely dominant.
He wins at home, and he's definitely going to be very happy about that one. Tomaselli will cross the line in 9th. He's just put a lap on the other home favourite there, Yuri Gabriel, who'll cross the line in 13th. Not really much he could do with that car today. He wasn't able to get a point. Thomas Anderson is going to get his first podium in a very long time. His first podium since his return. He crossed the line in 2nd, and finally getting some good luck after the disappointing qualifying he had. Soper will pick up the final points place, so it's going to be double points for Carlin. As a result, Adam Wolf finishes third to a double podium for Pyramid. La Rosa just misses out on a second consecutive podium in 4th. Julius Anderson finishes in 5th. Penske's streak of victories has officially come to an end. Anderson will cross the line in 5th, but he'll still lead the championship regardless, though. So P5 for Julius Anderson. Luca Farina will cross the line in 11th place, just missing out on the points. As P6 will go to Alex-Eric Lucin. It would have been double points for Peugeot had Mutka not aquaplaned off there, but it's going to be 8 points for Peugeot. 6th place for Lucin, a good drive for him. Doribush Daniel, only P7 for him today, not able to replicate the performance he was able to show at Road America 3 weeks ago. Luke Mason crosses the line in 12th. Enis Parachki, the strategy just didn't go his way today. He's going to cross the line in 8th position, and that is that then. But after a dominant performance, Gabriel Gomez is your winner here, the first ever World ChampCar winner here at Interlagos, and wow, I think they'll be very happy to see that a Brazilian has won his home race. So Gabriel Gomez wins the race from Thomas Anderson in 2nd, Adam Wolf in 3rd, with Francesco La Rosa in 4th, Julius Anderson is in 5th, with Alex-Eric Lucin in 6th, Doribush Daniel 7th, Enis Parachki 8th, with Lorenzo Tomaselli in 9th, Frederick Soper completing the points in 10th, with Luca Farina in 11th, Luke Mason 12th, Yuri Gabriel in 13th, Simon Mutka classified in 14th, Rosetta Martinez classified in 15th, so the classified retirement being Yuri Kratichville, Zachary Fitzwater, Florian Volker, Guillem Stopp, Dorian Milewski, Jared Fosbury, and Marek Patacek. And the fastest lap of the race who's going away with the bonus point, I've got a feeling it might be, and yep, it is. It's Gabriel Gomez who gets the fastest lap, so along with the 25 points he'll get for the victory, he also gets the bonus point for the fastest lap of the race. A totally dominant performance from the Brazilian hero. So there you have it then. that has been it from Interlagos here for World Champ Car. I hope you have enjoyed it. A very interesting race indeed. A very exciting and chaotic race in the wet conditions. And, well, a lot of memories are going to be left with World Champ Car's first visit here at Interlagos. But there you have it then, guys. That has been it. Hope you have enjoyed it. Of course, tomorrow and Wednesday, of course, we have the top class here for the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard. So do look forward to that. There is no F2 this week. We'll be back next week at the Austrian Grand Prix at Spielberg. Of course, we have DTM this weekend as well at Spielberg. So look forward to that. Of course, the next World Champ Car meeting will be on in 3 weeks' time rather than 2 weeks because, of course, the sign-ups are happening in 2 weeks' time. And, of course, Yuri has decided not to do any of FE or World Champ Car on the Monday because he wants to focus purely on the sign-up week that week. So it will be another 3 weeks when World Champ Car is back in action. And it will be at the world-famous Silverstone Circuit in Northamptonshire, which will play host to round 5. So the first European race of the season for World Champ Car. So do look forward to that, of course. Next week, Formula E will be in action, and that will be at the Lisbon Prix at Estoril, so do look forward to that. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. So thank you for watching. I've been JW97, he's been Yuri Marta, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.